Hey, everybody. It is Brian Wilson in the chair today. I'm Bryn for Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy, of course, is, if you heard a moment ago, a little under the weather. He wasn't feeling too perky yesterday. And so I sent him a note saying, well, I'm Blinky Buttons today. Good afternoon to you, RJ. Good to have you with us.
Hey there, Brian. Great to be here.
And Kenneth Weaver.
Hi, Brother Brian.
The pride of Pauls Valley, Oklahoma.
Yes, sir. Well, I don't know if I'm the pride of it, but that principle is.
Well, I tell you what, I saw the video of that thing. I mean, if you don't know, there was a school shooting in Pauls Valley, Oklahoma, and this principal took a bullet basically and saved so many lives by disabling the gunman, even after being, shot.
Yeah.
And really heroism to the nth degree. And he was quite the hero.
Yeah, Kirk Moore. Everybody who knows him, not surprised by what he did.
Yep.
There was no hesitation.
Yep.
I mean,
anyway,
he came out and he took care of it.
Well, good. We got a lot of ground to cover here, and Ken, you and I, maybe in the next hour, we can catch up, and
yes, sir.
I'll fill you in on all the stuff that's been going on here in bucolic Watertown. It's pretty interesting.
All right.
Let me start by talking about what's going on with the midterm elections. You've heard me say, if you've ever listened to me talk about midterm elections, I have, it's pretty much the same story every time, that the party in power traditionally does not do well in the midterm elections. They just don't. And that has always been the way it is. And so I've been looking, with some interest with all that's going on in Iran, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. The president just spoke about that. With all that's going on with the economy, with all that's going on in the world and the chaos that we have, and with people, really, struggling because of high gas prices and everything, how are we shaping up for the midterm elections? I have always predicted that we'll finish up in Iran, and I think we'll get that done in plenty of time. I think we're going to do a drive-by cleanup of Cuba. I don't think that's going to be much. In fact, I don't know if you heard it, but the other day there was this story that a U.S. Diplomatic plane was in Havana. So something's going on there. And then we'll still have a plenty amount of time. We'll have still, 5 months at least before the midterms for things to settle down. And what I said was, well, with the big, beautiful bill and the tax cuts and the no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security, and people getting pretty good-sized refunds as they get their income tax refunds back, which is just happening now, that you may start to see a turn. Okay, so if we traditionally know that the party in power doesn't do well in the midterm elections, then, where are we? I got a few numbers here. The Real Clear Politics average of the generic congressional vote has Democrats leading 5.7, plus 5.7, 5.7 points ahead of the Republicans. Fox News has it at 5. CNBC has it at 4. Two other, organizations have it at Democrats plus 3. Well, that's not horrible. Given where we are in the election cycle, 5 points is something you can close up, relatively easy if you've got the right issues. And then there's this whole thing about, the numbers. And Mark Penn is a guy that I turn to. I will tell you, he was a pollster for Clinton. But the thing I like about Mark Penn, and he shows up on Fox all the time, is he's just a straight shooter. He's just going to tell you, here are the numbers, and here's what I read into them, and he's very smart. He knows it. And he says, things may not be as bad for the Republicans in these midterm elections as we think they are, because people may be starting to pick up that the economy is taking a turn for the better. Listen completely to what he had to say. I think you'll find it very interesting.
Well, midterms. I've never heard so much talk about a midterm election 6 months out as though this election was being held today. We are a long way from determining the outcome of this election. And if you notice, like the Fox poll showed, actually, you would think that with all the hullabaloo about the Iran conflict, that the Republicans would have gone down. They didn't go down. They actually closed a point. They're actually much closer in the midterm ballot than they were a couple of months ago. So you're not seeing kind of a building wave here. You're seeing that it's very much a divided country. I think this thing is probably closer than most people think, with a lot of developments really to occur here. What's going to happen with energy prices in Iran? What's going to happen with the jobs numbers and economy and growth around AI? The stock market is at a record. That suggests that some people at least think that this economy is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, many people may be starting to pick up on the fact that things, the grocery prices are lower. There are a lot of things in your life that is lower. They just had a big precedent in the Oval Office a few moments ago, talking about TrumpRx.com. Now, if you need prescription drugs, you know how expensive they can be, and you know how maddening it can be, and you know how, difficult it is sometimes to pay for all those drugs. Now they have 17 out of 17 pharmaceutical companies that are participating with TrumpRx.com, which is a governmental website, actually. And the idea is that if you go there, you can guarantee you're going to get the lowest price. And they talked about how they got the 17th one on board today. That's Regeneron. They are doing some really interesting stuff. And Dr. Oz talked about all this in the Oval Office a few moments ago. See, if you really, if you're pinching pennies and you're looking at how am I going to pay for my drugs, and all of a sudden you find that you can get your drugs cheaper because of something that this White House has done, that sticks with you, doesn't it? Dr. Oz.
So this has been an unprecedented process. The president insisted we deal with one critical number you should all remember, which is that 1 in 3 Americans, when they go to the drugstore, after they've seen a doctor, will often leave empty-handed because they cannot afford the medications they're picking up. So affordability was the main word the president would use in many of those phone calls. He wanted it to be done fairly. We created a partnership with the pharmaceutical industry that was remarkable, and that it pushed 17 massive companies into the fold to try to do deals, again, unprecedented, that would allow us to claim that they were giving the most favored nation pricing to this country, to the American people. The president would not take no for an answer. We got 16 companies in, but not the 17th. And Mr. President, we talked about a lot of numbers. Secretary Kennedy quoted 100%, 600%. It's hard to beat free. Free is the best price, and that's the starting price with the president oftentimes, and that's what this wonderful company's agreed to. I want to applaud TrumpRx.gov, a remarkable site created by Joe Gebbia. Ed Korstein has done a wonderful job with 0 glitches, serving more than 10 million individual unique Americans so far. And Mr. President, it's the fastest website I've ever seen. People love it because it works well. There's all kinds of additional elements being added to it, which we'll be talking about. But this website, as the president said, must be checked if you're going to buy a medication, to make sure your price is the right price. It's a transparency site that is more rigorous than anything that I have seen.
There you go. So, if people are going to the drugstore, well, everybody goes to the drugstore. If you get up and almost everybody's on some medication, right? So you go to the drugstore and you find out I can now save a bunch of money. That registers, doesn't it? So maybe, they say in politics that perception is more important than reality. And there have been a lot of signs out there that the economy is trying to right itself and trying to do better. And the jobless rate is in pretty good shape. We don't have a great deal of unemployment. Inflation is certainly, it's there, but it's not runaway inflation by any stretch of the imagination. And, for a while, the gas prices came down, and they're up right now, but they'll come back down. We'll get into that in just a moment. But the end of the day is, if people now start to perceive that, hey, maybe my situation is a little better, and hey, look at that big tax refund I just got. Man, I can use that. And people go out and they start to spend that money and they start to juice the economy. I can see a scenario where we could be in very, very good shape by the time we hit the midterm elections. And I sense, I could be wrong, but my sense of it is the economy is starting to make a turn and people are just now beginning to notice it. I think we're on track. And I know there's a lot of nervous Nellies out there. Oh, if we don't get done with this Iran thing, things are going to we're really going to get slaughtered in the midterms. I don't think so. I just don't. And I think that, as you heard Mark Penn say, a lot of evidence in the numbers out there that we're still, by and large, a 50-50 country. And there are a great number of people who look at what's happening, and I know not everybody within the sound of my voice feels this way, but a great number do, including me, that indeed we had to do this in Iran, because no matter how bad the situation is right now and how it hurts us politically, you know what would have been worse than all of that? Iran launching one nuclear weapon. That, how much would that cost the world economy? So, I think we had to do it. I think there's a master plan here to have us out and have a period of what I call rather quiet prosperity, where there's not a lot of turmoil in the world and things have settled down and the economy is starting to percolate a little bit, and people are spending their tax refunds, and that's juicing the economy. So many things could fall into line. Now, I'm a rather optimistic person. I will admit that. But I also believe I'm telling you the truth. I really do. If I felt that it was a gloomy situation, I would tell you. I think it's far too soon for that. Now, real quick, the question also comes up about, well, what about all of this redistricting in Virginia? The voters in Virginia, even though 48.5% of the voters said that they did not want this new plan, redistricting plan that gave players that the referendum that they passed violated several clauses of the state constitution, arguing it skirted a 90-day public notice requirement, calling the question that was presented to the voters flagrantly misleading. The other, what about a red state like Florida? And there's some thinking that Ron DeSantis will push through some kind of redistricting effort. So I think it's a wash. I think at the end of the day, Virginia goes back to the way it was. I think, maybe we pick up a seat or two in this redistricting, and that would be nice. But it's all about the midterm elections, and don't feel too gloomy about what happened in Virginia, because I've never felt that was going to stand up to scrutiny. We'll have a little bit more about that and what the president just said about the situation in Iran. Right now, it is 20 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson filling in.
Over the old-fashioned way. Let's agree on this point. Long waiting for a visit to the doctor stinks. Long wait times when you get to the doctor, that stinks as well. You don't receive either of those things at Gracepoint Healthcare. They don't believe in those types of things. Gracepoint Healthcare believes in helping you right now, today or tomorrow. That's oftentimes what they're going to say when you call them and ask for an appointment at Gracepoint, even for brand new patients. Gracepoint Healthcare is located in Franklin, 599-6868, by the way, 599-6868. We call them modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way because it's a direct pay primary care physician's practice, meaning you pay Gracepoint, and then you can file with your insurance company for reimbursement after the fact. Bottom line is this is the way that it should be because it keeps prices low at the point of payment. Plus, with the basic Smart Care plan, you pay $99 a month and you get unlimited office visits for the entire year. That's the way it ought to be. Gracepoint Healthcare, modern medicine delivered the old-fashioned way. Go today in Franklin.
That was the right shoulder there before 24. And we're monitoring a situation in Louisiana where reports say 10 people were shot at a mall in Baton Rouge, and a major shift in federal marijuana policy. We'll tell you what it means in Tennessee coming up at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. I'm Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show on this Thursday afternoon. Beautiful, about 86 degrees outside. I mean, couldn't be nicer. Right now, this is just a coincidence. The temperature in the air and the temperature in my pool, exactly the same. Yeah, I can't wait.
That's the
Take a
way to
little
go,
dip
Brother
after the
Brian.
show. Yeah, there you go. Hey, listen, we were talking about the midterm elections and all of that, and then this whole thing about what happened in Virginia. It's already been knocked down by one judge. It's going to be in the courts for a while. But the next shoe to drop in that particular drama is this. Redistricting battle comes down to Florida after Democrat victory in Virginia referendum. This is from justthenews.com. After Virginian Democrats successfully convinced voters to approve a constitutionally questionable redistricting push to seize more U.S. congressional seats in the state, Florida is now in the spotlight. In the Sunshine State, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is spearheading an effort to draw the state's congressional districts before the midterm elections. Earlier this year, he called a special session of the state legislature to consider that. Now, Republicans see it as an opportunity to cancel any gains that...
situation as Texas Republicans who are on the run right now, and under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy-mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast because they started this war, and we're going to finish it.
All right, well, we'll see how that works out. Here is Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, who has a very different idea about how the midterms. He is somewhat optimistic.
The Democrats last night were suggesting that somehow Republicans started the mid-cycle redistricting. That is not true. It started in 2024 in New York, you all remember. So the very people who are claiming that are the ones who helped orchestrate that boondoggle. They're the ones that started that, but it started even before then. I'll take you all the way back to Eric Holder, the Attorney General who left the Obama administration and went out to begin the redistricting battles. They started that, and that's why some states have almost entirely blue delegations and no Republicans, even though big percentages of their population vote Republican. So Democrats started this. The Republican states are doing what they can do lawfully under their state laws, and in a state like California, Virginia, they had to defy their own constitutions to play a dishonest game. The people are taking account of this. They're voting accordingly, and we are on track to win in November. Watch. We are on track.
He feels good about things. We'll see how that all plays out. I have no idea how it's going to resolve itself, but I do think that things are changing and that there is something going on out there, and the tide may have shifted. And yes, we have concerns about Iran, but the president, is saying we've only been there a short period of time. Give me a day or two to finish some things and wrap it up.
So we were in Vietnam for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We're in for I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And their military is totally defeated. They're outside of the little wise guy ships. I call them the wise guy ships, the little boats that they have running around with guns in them. And we'll take them out too when we see them. But their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, all of their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Maybe they loaded up a little bit during the 2-week hiatus, but we'll knock that out in about 1 day if they did. We've done an amazing job. Their leaders are gone. Their leaders are all gone. Part of the problem is that, that's why I can't really answer your question, but they have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control. And because we've created a real mess for them, but they've created a mess for the world over the last 47 years. They've killed a lot of our people.
That's the president just a few moments ago from the Oval talking about, give me a little more time. We're dealing with a government that has been completely shattered, and it's a little hard to figure out who to talk to get a deal done. But I think it will happen. I don't think we have anything to worry about yet. Everybody take a deep breath. There's still plenty of time before the midterm elections, and I detect that things are maybe moving our direction a little bit better than many people anticipated. And with that, it's time for the news with Ken Weaver at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We're monitoring that situation in Louisiana where 10 people were shot at a mall in Baton Rouge. Police Chief T.J. Moore says they believe this was an incident involving two groups of people in the food court that stemmed from an argument.
What we found out looking through surveillance videos, it looks like it was kind of a targeted, two groups of people got into an argument inside the food court and started shooting at each other.
2 of the 10 people shot said to be in critical condition. Major shift in federal marijuana policy today. The federal government easing its stance on medical marijuana. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed an order moving certain marijuana products from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under federal law, which expands medical research and reduces regulatory hurdles for state-licensed medical cannabis programs. Recreational marijuana on the federal level remains illegal nationwide. And the federal shift on marijuana stops at the Tennessee border because state lawmakers have passed a bill that ensures federal rescheduling does not loosen Tennessee's marijuana laws unless the legislature approves it. And the Justice Department's action today does not affect hemp-derived THC products sold legally in Tennessee for now. Operation Epic Fury. Ian Pannell says the president posted to social media today that he ordered the U.S. Navy to shoot and kill boats laying mines in the strait.
The blockade exists in the Gulf of Oman, which is south or southeast of the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz obviously runs very close to the Iranian coastline as well as the Omani coastline, and that's where we saw the Iranian fast boats in operation. Iran's made it clear that it will respond to what it sees as a breach of the ceasefire by these seizures or attacks against vessels that are either carrying the Iranian flag or carrying Iranian oil.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Complete stop-and-go traffic. That's going to be northbound 65 to the South Loop, then eastbound West Loop and South Loop, and then northbound North Loop up to the Northern Split. Brake tapping eastbound 440 over to 24. Then we got a crash in Jolton. This is going to be 24 eastbound at Whites Creek Pike. I'm Ken Weaver.
Folks, the one and only Glock store located just off of Briley Parkway on Elm Hill, well, just off of Elm Hill Pike on Airlane Drive. I want you to stop by and I want you to see the incredible Glock store. The retail space is something to see. They have more Glocks than you can imagine. They've got customized Glocks and stock Glocks, and every Glock is in stock because, you know, they're the Glock store. They have a blacksmith, or a gunsmith, I should say, not a blacksmith, a gunsmith that is on location every moment that they're open during the day because they want to make sure that they have somebody there that can customize your Glock on site when you order your customizable parts. I mean, that's kind of nice, right, at the Glock store. So see the retail side. Go tour the rooms that are the Shoot 270 rooms. They don't believe in lanes at the Glock store, and they can talk to you about that. They can have a trainer help you refine your craft in the Shoot 270 rooms as well. And then there's the incredible manufacturing division. They ship all over these United States of America. Friends, I encourage you to stop by the Glock store and to mark your calendar for May 30th. It is the open house. It's a big event, raffles galore. I mean, giveaways, unimaginable giveaways. I mean, tens of thousands of dollars given away at the Glock store on their open house. And you need to mark that date down on May 30th. We'll be there. I'll be there. Dan will be there. Chris will be there. And I hope to see you as well. Go online at glockstore.com or shoot270.com and get over to the incomparable Glock store.
It is 30, let's call it 38 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Yes, I'm not Matt Murphy. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, filling in for the ailing Matt Murphy. Feeling a little under the weather today. I don't know if he'll be back tomorrow, but he's taking a day off to try to, you know how it is. I always used to think, I had a boss in television who once asked me, hey, you know, when you feel a little bad, do you come in? I say, you know what? Sometimes you just take a day early on and knock it off and knock that cold back. It pays off better than if you try to push through and then you get really sick and you're out for several days. So I sort of don't mind when people call and say, I'm going to take the day. And, you know, hopefully he'll be back tomorrow. But if not, you know, there's a good chance I'll be here tomorrow if he doesn't make it. So we'll see. I want to talk a little bit about this story. And I mean, it is weird. It's a weird one. I'm talking about these 11 scientists, nuclear physicists and rocket engineers and people who've been involved in you know, apparently some people believe reverse engineering of alien technology and all of that stuff, if you believe all that. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole today, but one way I think it's very interesting to find out what's going on about these missing scientists. They, you know, 11 of them since 2022. I think maybe one of them, the family has started saying, we think it was just a suicide. We don't really see anything that was there that bothers us or concerns us. Thank you for, you know, including her, but we don't think that's it. So maybe 10. But one way or the other, it's a really bizarre story. The House of Representatives, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee is James Clymer, Republican of Kentucky, who says we're going to be out there digging around on this. Here is his appearance this morning on Maria Bartiromo's show on Fox Business Channel.
I mean, I don't think anyone who's keeping up with this story would think the odds were very good that this is all a coincidence. There could be a lot of reasons behind what's happening. Of course, it could be a coincidence, but what I've learned is in 3 years as chairman of the House Oversight Committee is a lot of these agencies never share information. And you heard Kash Patel say they're just now starting an investigation because it's just now popping up on the radar screen of the average American. But this has been happening for 3 years. And the longer you have to go back to do an investigation, the harder it is to get information America or to steal our intellectual property with respect to our nuclear program.
Yeah, I mean, look, the president the other day made a comment about this, saying that these were all very important top people. What kind of access did they have?
They all had different types of access. One was just an administrative assistant. Some were the scientists at the top level, and everything in between. Some worked for NASA, some worked for the Department of Energy. So there's a wide range of occupations within the nuclear and space program. There's a wide range of responsibilities and internal knowledge. But at the end of the day, to have that many, 11, that have either died or are missing, it's something that needs to be investigated, and we're taking it very seriously. And I can tell you, from talking to my colleagues in Congress, Democrat and Republican, every member of Congress is getting a lot of calls from their constituents asking about this.
Yeah. And not only that, but, you know, when you consider the fact that we're so competitive on so many levels with China, like, you know, Jared Isaacman, the head of NASA, was with us a couple of weeks ago, and he said that we're talking about months, you know, in terms of when we're going to get back to the moon and when China is going to get back to the moon. It's not years. It's that competitive. And, of course, that's one of the areas that some of those scientists were working.
It is, and you always have to watch China. We have the usual suspects anytime something like this happens. Obviously, China's at the top of the list, and you have Russia, Iran, North Korea. But there are a lot of other countries. Anytime there's a major cyber attack, oftentimes it happens in a country that most Americans would have a difficult time finding on the map. So there are a lot of potential countries that could be involved in this, or again, as I said earlier, it could be a coincidence, but I don't think anyone thinks that it's a coincidence. But at the end of the day, we need to have a serious congressional investigation on this. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get all the information together. And again, I'm confident, Maria, that none of these agencies, up until perhaps in the last week, have ever shared information on their employees that have either died or were missing. I doubt they even knew there was a link. So we're going to try to do our part to get answers for the American people and to try to protect the employees and to protect our nuclear and space intellectual property.
Well, that's exactly right. We need to do that without fail. So, what is going on? Is this just some kind of wild coincidence? Or is there something evil at play here? From thehill.com, I think this is very interesting. American adversaries may be involved in the case of more than 10 scientists reported missing or dead, a lawmaker told NewsNation. At the House Oversight Committee launches an investigation into the researcher disappearance and deaths. Representative Eric Burleson, Republican of Missouri, thinks adversaries such as China, Russia, or Iran could be connected. I would not be surprised if our adversaries, China, Russia, Iran, or any other adversary, saw an opportunity to take out some of our nation's top scientists. Burleson said he's worried for the rest of our nation's scientists as the disappearances and deaths receive renewed attention. These scientists are not hardened. They don't have a security detail. They could be a very easy target. And so there is that. Look, I mean, how many times when, I was doing the afternoon show here back in the day, did I talk about the influx of people coming into this country under the Biden administration and how the borders were wide open and that our enemies in the world were going to take advantage of our situation? that the borders were open. They were going to take full advantage. I mean, if I were an adversary on the world stage, if I was China, if I was Russia, if I was Iran, if I was North Korea, or if I was anybody else who had it in for the United States, and I look over and say, oh, look, their borders are wide open, you can literally just walk into the country, I would send all kinds of people in there to do my bidding while the doors were open. Is that what is going on here now? Did our adversaries send people in here to take out these scientists and reduce our ability to do rocket science and high-level physics and all that kind of stuff? I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but could it be? Could it be something that was going on, with the apparently we're about to have a big revelation with regard to UFOs, and it said that some of these people may have had connection to some of those programs that have been in the black for so long, the re-engineering of alien, and I'm not going to get into it. I promise I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I could talk about it for an hour. I'm fascinated by it, but one way or the other, is that something that might have happened? I don't know. There's another story here, which I find extremely interesting, from Newsweek. Chinese scientists have been dying mysterious deaths as well. The star of China's booming artificial intelligence defense sector had been working on Taiwan invasion scenarios until he died in an unexplained car crash in the early hour mornings in Beijing. He was just 38 years old. Many questions remain over the July 1st, 2023 death of Feng Yanghe, a professor at the National University of Defense Technology who had won national competitions with some stuff that he had done, such as why did it, there are questions. Why did an obituary in the state-run Science News website say that he was, quote-unquote, sacrificed? Why was the brilliant scientist from the Gansu province buried in a special cemetery in Beijing for the Communist Party elite, state heroes, and revolutionary martyrs? That's interesting. Again, competition between the United States and China is deepening, with the Chinese and Russian leaders have proclaimed changes unseen in a century. In China, media and social media reports and obituaries have attributed all the deaths to traffic accidents. And other unspecified accidents. If the Chinese are having a problem and we're having a problem, and, are the two connected? Is there some kind of war going on? I don't know. I mean, there's no way to know whether this is just some kind of strange coincidence or whether there is something really going on here behind the scenes that requires our attention. But I will agree with Congressman Comer on one thing. My time in Washington, I noticed that there's a lot of stovepiping of information within different agencies. One agency will have a little bit of information, but they don't share it, so it stays in that one stovepipe. Another agency has this little bit of the puzzle, and they don't share it with anybody else, so it stays over here in their stovepipe. Now, if you had if you had the big picture, then maybe you could learn something. But there are so many agencies that have a piece of the story, and they don't talk to each other. This is how 9/11 happened. They don't talk to each other. And so, one of the things that it was supposed to correct all that was there's supposed to be a director of national intelligence that sits above all of the intelligence agencies and then has the total picture. And that person reports directly to the President of the United States. So they may know more than they're saying, but the bottom line here is, 10 of our top people, including a general who just walked away in New Mexico. And I mean, no indication anything was up, no indication anything was untoward was going on, just vanished, just gone. How does that happen? One of these scientists, I heard somebody talk about why one of these scientists was a very serious smoker, always, chain smoking kind of guy. He disappeared without his cigarettes. Now, do you know somebody who smokes is, like a chain smoker who leaves their cigarettes behind when they're going somewhere? No. If there's anything they're going to get those dang cigarettes. So I don't know what happened here. And maybe not all of them really should be in this thing, but it certainly is raising questions, and it certainly is raising eyebrows. And I'm glad that Congress is looking at it to see if they can figure out what's going on. Was it at our adversaries? Was something else that we can't understand today happening? I don't know, but we'll continue to stay on this particular story of the missing scientists. On that point, it is 50 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for USS. That's United Structural Systems. USS is not just another repair company. They're your local foundation and waterproofing experts. Understand exactly how Tennessee's soil acts, how the weather responds, how homes behave in those weather conditions. They've been serving homeowners in Middle Tennessee and beyond since 1994. That's a long time doing what they do. More than 30,000 satisfied customers. 30,000 customers have been proven right time and again by going to USS. That experience means that they've seen just about every type of problem that you can imagine. At USS, they want to give you a free home inspection. Go to USSTN.com to find out more about that. They did this for my home. They came to my house. They inspected it. They gave me the thumbs up, and it gave me peace of mind knowing that I'd made a good choice in the purchase of my home and that I was safe and free of fear in terms of foundation issues or waterproofing issues in the near future or the long term. They're problem solvers. They're experienced. They're local. They're USS. Go to USSTN.com.
Anticipate.
And I've got a quick question for you. When it comes to your health, would you rather know what's going on inside of your body or just hope that everything is fine? Because a lot of people who feel great have no idea something's happening beneath the surface until much later on. The idea of knowing versus not knowing stuck with me, and that's why I decided to check things out by getting a scan from our friends at Craft Body Scan. This is quick, it's non-invasive, and walking out, you feel like you have real answers. And right now, Craft Body Scan is offering our listeners their couples heart and lung scan valued at over $2,500 for just $99. This is an incredible deal. It can give you true peace of mind and an early heads up before symptoms ever show up. Take advantage of this by going to togetherwescan.com or call 615 436-1000 and use promo code MATT50. That's MATT50. This year, don't just hope everything's okay. Know everything's okay. That's togetherwescan.com or 615-436-1000 and promo code MATT50.
Two groups of people get in an argument, bullets fly, and innocent people hurt in a mall in Louisiana. I've got that story and more at 4 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Remember when we had the big ice storm? I mean, who could forget? And how many days did we go without electricity? And one of the things that we learned was, well, apparently, NES wasn't doing enough tree trimming. That's what we learned. Well, now, they learned their lesson and they say, well, we need to get out there and we need to trim some trees. And predictably, people are complaining about it. I mean, which did you hate more? The way they trimmed your trees or being without electricity for, a week? Nashville's electric service writes the Tennessean. They have a new tree trimming approach instituted in the wake of Winter Storm Fern. They say it's aggressive, in some case leaving trees entirely branchless on the side closest to the power lines. Well, you've got to take those trees out. What I would say is, what is the tree doing in the power lines anyway? Did they plant a tree under the power lines? Well, then, you should have no expectation that tree is going to be around in the future. If it's under a power line, take it out. But apparently a lot of people are complaining to their members, their city council members. I'm getting some feedback from constituents, and in some cases, it's just happening. Said District 18 Councilmember Tom Cash. They come home and they see that it's been done. I'm wondering if the enhanced policy is going to remain the enhanced policy. I wonder if there's room for improvement. Some have been flat trimmed all the way down on one side, all the way to the ground, leaving trunks with limbs on only one side. And some people say, well, that could cause the tree to fall if it were to fall in a different direction, maybe back toward the house. So one way or the other apparently said you can reach out to NES and they will send arborists back out. And and once they go out there and take a look at it, they may be willing to remove the tree entirely and provide a replacement. So, you're going to take the tree down and then put the tree right back there under the power lines. I hope they don't do that. I'll say, well, let's move it right over here. We'll plant you another tree. I don't know, one way or the other. You can't make people happy. On one hand, you've got a situation where you don't have any power because they didn't trim the trees. And when they trim the trees, everybody whines and moans and groans about, well, you should see what they did to the trees when they trimmed them. 6 of 1. You can't have it both ways, ladies and gentlemen. Make up your mind. It is 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on this Thursday, April 23rd. Time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. At least 10 people hurt in a mass shooting in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. According to the police chief there, it happened at the Mall of Louisiana. Chief T.J. Moore says they believe it was an incident involving two groups of people in the food court that stemmed from an argument.
Unfortunately, there were some innocent people that were in the area that might have also caused some rounds. Right now, we have 10 victims at local area hospitals, some transported by EMS and some arriving by private vehicle.
That's some late breaking news. At least one of those people has died. A historic policy change, the Justice Department rescheduling some marijuana products. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announcing medical marijuana regulated by states will no longer be treated like heroin or LSD under federal law. Instead, it moves to Schedule 3 alongside drugs with recognized medical uses such as Tylenol with codeine. Officials say the change improves research access but stops short of legalization on the federal level. That's legalization for recreation. And here in Tennessee, new state legislation stops agencies from easing marijuana laws based on federal changes unless the state legislature approves first. Legal hemp-derived THC products survive this change in federal policy for now. Operation Epic Fury, don't rush me. That's President Trump's repeated reaction at the White House when asked by reporters about when the war in Iran might wind down or when ships might once again move freely through the Strait of Hormuz.
I don't want to rush it. I want to take my time. We have plenty of time, and I want to get a great deal. I want to get a deal where our nation and the world is safe from lunatics with nuclear weapons.
The president posted today he ordered the U.S. Navy to shoot and kill boats laying mines in the strait, but the U.S. isn't positioned within the Strait of Hormuz. And President Trump announcing today a partnership with drug company Regeneron that he says will make certain prescription drugs cheaper.
One of the most respected pharmaceutical companies anywhere in the world, frankly, I know it very well, is Regeneron. And it's agreed to offer their prescription medications at heavily discounted, most favored nation prices. In other words, their numbers will come down at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
Regeneron makes medicines mainly injectable to treat eye disease, allergies, cancer, heart disease, rare genetic disorders, and more. And following an overnight vote session, the U.S. Senate approved a Department of Homeland Security budget blueprint on a 50-48 vote. The measure triggers budget reconciliation, which clears the way for a future funding bill to bypass the Senate filibuster. This would be funding for immigration enforcement. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Complete stop and go brake tap in north and southbound 65 between the South Loop and 440. Then eastbound 440 is like a parking lot over to 24. Same goes for eastbound 40 west of downtown. You've got a crash there near Broadway, and that's not in that location. This crash that I'm talking about is in the Gulch. That's 40 eastbound near Broadway. What I'm talking about going 40 eastbound west of downtown, it is coming to a complete stop to go north on 65. A lot of that has to do with a crash there, 65 northbound at Rosa Parks Boulevard. Then we got a crash in Madison Briley Parkway past Gallatin Pike. And now Hillwood, a crash 40 westbound under Charlotte Pike. I'm Ken Weaver.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. You've probably figured out by now this is not the voice of Matt Murphy. Matt Murphy is off today. He's not feeling too perky. He will be back soon. And I am filling in today all the way till 7 o'clock. So, buckle up. Got a lot of ground to cover here and a lot of things to discuss on this Thursday, April 23rd, 2026. The President of the United States held a press conference a while ago answering questions about Iran and all of that, saying we need to be patient. He's also talking about changes that are happening to the pharmaceutical industry that make drugs in America cheaper. That was very much in the news in the last couple of hours. I want to change direction, though. And, one of the things that I feel like, that I bring to the table as a host is the ability to connect a lot of dots. You got a dot over here and a dot over there. And sometimes, you see, these dots are connected. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But I'm seeing a lot of dots, and it suggests to me that our air traffic control system in this country is, it's blinking red and yellow, or yellow. I'm not sure which yet, but it's blinking, that it's under stress right now. And the reason I say that is there are apparently have been some real close near misses. One of them happened right here in our backyard last weekend. Have you heard this story? I mean, if you've heard it, I apologize. But I think as a couple of 2 or 3 days go along, we are finding out more and more and more about this, and it's incredibly concerning. Ladies and gentlemen, we came within 500 feet of having two Southwest Airlines passenger jets collide over Nashville. It was close. I mean, it was real close. Scary close. And if it hadn't been for some amazing technology, something I think it's called the TCAS system, which alerts, you've got a proximity. It shouts at you, dive. And one is told to dive and one is told to go up to keep separation. Or it'll tell you to turn left or to turn right, one way or the other. It will tell you when it picks up, but sometimes it didn't pick it up to the last second. They came within 500 feet. Can you imagine the carnage that would have occurred right over Nashville out there if these two jetliners had crashed into each other on this weekend? Listen, here is what Channel 4 is reporting about it, and I want you to listen to it because it's about 2 minutes. This is the actual report they filed that has some of the audio from the air traffic controllers, etc. It was so close.
Southwest 507, maintain 2000.
Saturday afternoon was lined up to be a routine landing for Southwest Flight 507. But as it made its way to land, pilots decided the winds were too strong and started to circle the airport to try again.
2000, Southwest 507.
It was routine until it wasn't.
507, turn right, heading 110.
It was in this moment that the air traffic controller put one Southwest flight on a collision course with another.
Started out great, and then for whatever reason, he decided to vector him to the east. He completely forgot about the other Southwest and did not realize it until it was too late.
At the same time, Southwest Flight 1152 was taking off. Shown in the playback of Saturday's flight traffic, the two were virtually on top of each other. The FAA said only 500 feet separated both planes.
You have to be 100% perfect 100% of the time. We're going to make mistakes. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
In this instance, the pilots were able to see they were too close for comfort on their traffic collision avoidance system, or TCAS.
2000, we're already past.
We wanted to know how often something like this happens at B&A. And in an upgraded points article, it showed that between 2021 and 2024, B&A has had 25 low-risk near-miss incidents. And David Riley, who has over 20 years of experience as a controller, says it all comes back to the amount of people in the tower.
B&A is one of the top 30 busiest airports in the country, and it's the least staffed airport of those 30. They have 28 controllers of the 52 that they're allotted. The situation at B&A needs to be addressed.
In this instance, you can hear the same controller approving both departures and landings, which likely means they faced some sort of shortage Saturday night. For WSMV4, I'm Steve Mailing.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, this is not the first time that I have heard about problems, like this, and at B&A. Now, I think B&A is a great airport. Doug Crulin is a longtime friend of this radio station, and he runs it, I think, brilliantly. He's not in charge of air traffic controllers, however. That's the federal government, and quite frankly, they may be too understaffed. When I was still doing this show on a regular basis before I retired, I got approached by someone who was a family member of an air traffic controller who was telling me about some of the concerns that the air traffic controllers had. And this is about, well, more than a year ago. And I thought, wow, that's and as it turned out, I really didn't have the ability to do the story then because I was transitioning out to retirement. But one way or the other, it has always stuck with me that there may be a problem out there, and it seems to be staffing. If indeed that information in that story on Channel 4 is correct, we are allocated for 52 air traffic controllers at B&A, and we got 28. That's not enough. That puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people. Remember, we also nearly had a ground disaster where I think the details, I couldn't find them, but I remember it very clearly. It wasn't that long ago at B&A. A pilot had been given clearance to take off, and then they put some traffic in. He had to shut it down and barely missed running into, I can't remember if it was another plane or a truck. We've seen that happen in other airports as well. Listen to this. The FAA investigates a near miss between passenger jets at JFK Airport. An American Airlines regional jet flew close to an Air Canada regional jet after aborting its landing. It was the second such incident in recent days at a major U.S. airport. The Federal Aviation Administration said on Wednesday it was investigating a near miss between two passenger jets at Kennedy International Airport. The close encounter happened on Monday afternoon when an American Airlines regional jet missed its intended approach path and aborted its landing. The FAA said that sent it dangerously close to an Air Canada regional jet that had been cleared to land on a parallel runway. Both aircraft responded to onboard collision warnings and averted each other, then safely repeated their landing attempts a short time later. This, according to the New York Times, talking about the thing at JFK. FAA probes JFK near miss after another recent close call field scrutiny of air traffic safety, writes Fox News. Fox News covering a devastated runway collision in LaGuardia Airport, where an Air Canada jet landed on runway 4 and collided with a Port Authority fire truck. Remember that? So, yeah, I mean, it seems like just lately there have been a flurry of these stories. Of course, we had that horrible accident involving cargo jets that was really tragic. And we went so long. We had the air traffic crash in D.C., where the commuter plane hit a helicopter in very tight airspace right out there near Reagan National. So, I mean, it seems like there's been a flurry just almost every day or at least once a week. We're getting some story about a near miss here. We nearly collided on the runway here. And now we've had 2 of these incidents, one in Nashville, one at JFK. They are very scary. We could have very easily had 2 dramatic aviation disasters. And I'm beginning to wonder if we are putting too much pressure on our air traffic controllers. And you know, is it safe to fly is the question. When you get this many near misses, it should send off flares. It should send off alarm bells that we need to be careful. Here's what another story. This is from the Wall Street Journal today. I can't talk to anybody. One air traffic controller's mental health struggle. Controllers say the FAA's medical reporting system discourages them from seeking treatment. Agency says its protocols keep skies safe. Talking about a guy named Joshua, worked at an air traffic controller for the FAA for more than a decade, struggled with the symptoms of depression, but concealed his condition out of fear it would disqualify him from directing traffic. Said Davey, who recounted her and Joshua's story and interviews over several months. His initial love for his work gave way to chronic stress and exhaustion. Babe, I can't talk to anybody, Joshua told her. Please don't talk to anybody about how I'm feeling. I don't want to lose my job. Each day, thousands of controllers monitor flight paths and direct pilots in the high-stress work of keeping U.S. skies safe. But behind the crackle of commands issued from towers and facilities, many controllers are silently struggling, according to interviews with more than 24 current and former controllers, medical experts, industry officials, and lawmakers. Controllers said they often hide the mental health issues because they worry that reporting a diagnosis or retrieving treatment could cost them their livelihoods. Yeah, I can't imagine the stress of that job. It's like you got to be perfect every day. You can't lose an aircraft. You can't lose, concentration even for a moment. And if you are overworked because there aren't enough people in the control tower, if you're doing, landings and takeoffs, that's too much. So, I think that we've got a good Secretary of Transportation in Sean Duffy. I think he's a good guy. I think he cares deeply. And I think we are working through some problems that weren't the making of the Trump administration. But if we have a crash, you know who's going to get blamed? It's going to be the Trump administration. It's going to be Secretary Duffy. I don't think that's necessarily fair because I think they're still trying to dig out of the problems that were left here by the previous administration. But one way or the other, my experience teaches me that we've got a situation where the system is blinking red. It is sending off the alarm bells. The question is whether we as a nation will pay attention and try to solve this problem. And you know what? That's not going to be an easy problem to solve because there's only 2 ways to solve it. Get more air traffic controllers, and that takes a while, or reduce the amount of traffic they have to handle. We have done that in the past. Perhaps we need to do that now. I know that some airlines have decided they're not going to fly because they can't afford to fly certain routes right now. And maybe that will help a bit. But at the end of the day, it seems to me we really need to pay some strict and very detailed attention to what's going on with their air traffic control system in America to make sure that we are safe and that we don't have horrible crashes. 20 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. If I'm lucky, in just a few moments, we'll chat with our good friend Ken Weaver about some stuff. Right now, time for a commercial break on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Cover Nash. Shane Ring and Cover Nash. They can help find the insurance program that's right for you. And all it takes is a telephone call to our friends over there. Shane does it all from right in Brentwood, and you can go by and see him in his Brentwood office, or you can do this over the phone, right? So what separates Cover Nash from everyone else? Well, first and foremost, they shop all of the insurance programs and plans that are available to you, for you, in the state of Tennessee. So they can find the right one for you, specific to your circumstance and situation. Whether you have a lot of family, whether you're just by yourself, whatever it might be, they're going to identify that. And, oh, by the way, before you say, well, Murphy, this is April. There's nothing you can do in April, right? It's not open enrollment. Shane wants to help you understand. This is language used by companies that don't want you to be able to have the flexibility that you truly have. He can work out a program for you. You don't have to play by Washington's rules. Shane and Cover Nash can help cut your costs, in some cases, in half. If you're self-employed, uninsured, or just tired of paying too much, call 615-465-0023, 465-0023, or online at coverdash.com.
And at least one person dead now after Bullets fly in a packed mall in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We'll tell you the latest on that at 4:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, filling in for Matt Murphy today, feeling a little under the weather. He'll either be back tomorrow or Monday, one way or the other. But I'm filling in here all the way till 7 o'clock. Always good to be with my old friend Ken Weaver. Ken, how you doing, buddy? How you been?
I'm doing good, man. I am doing mighty fine.
Yeah.
And I hope you and Cabana Wife are too.
Well, it's I don't know how to put this. You know, I'm retired now.
Sort of.
And well, sort of. That's right, sort of. I'm on a lot, aren't I?
Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about this, add up, you got 4 talents on the radio station,
Mm-hmm.
and they all got multiple weeks of vacation.
Yep.
And so if I fill in for everybody on their vacation, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, I mean, if it's at least 2 weeks per person, that's 2 months right there.
Yeah.
You're working.
Yeah. Well, anyways, I'm glad to do it, and I enjoy.
Glad to have you, brother.
Well, I'm glad to do it because I sit around the house basically and talk to my bulldogs, and they get real tired of hearing my rants, and it's good to have a place where I can go and get things off my chest. As I say, we're chaotic at our house. It's because I don't know what I was thinking, Ken. Like, I need another French bulldog like I need a hole in my head.
Yeah, you got little Bo now.
We got little Bo that was was part of a rescue litter, and we ended up with one of those, and he is, back me up, you've seen the pictures.
Yes.
He's a very cute boy.
Oh, yes.
He's
beautiful little fella. Beautiful eyes.
Blue eyes and sort of what they call a merle coat.
Yes.
And we call him Flacco because he's so skinny, because he's just a little skinny puppy right now. And he's driving everybody in the house and Grogu crazy. So
yeah, he looks exactly like this little Merle Frenchie in our neighborhood where Jennifer and I walk. His name is Bentley. And Bo looks exactly like Bentley.
Well, these French bulldogs are they have a lot of personality to them, and I actually think that the dog believes his name is Bo.
Sure.
Because that's all we say to him. No, Bo, no, Bo, no, Bo, no, Bo, no, Bo. We just do that all the time. Yeah, so I think he thinks his name is Bo. He hadn't quite figured out what his name is. But the thing about French bulldogs is they will look straight at you and just ignore you.
Sure.
I mean, they are very independent, and they hear, but they do not listen. Like a lot of small children, perhaps. One way or the other, that's going on. And then I don't know. I mentioned this the other day. I think on Dan's show, Cabana Wife. She's hell on cars. I will say this: she's tough on a car, and she's really become quite the deer slayer. With the car that she, it's now been totaled. Goodness. She has hit a total of 3 deer on 2 occasions.
Goodness.
Yeah, this is the 3rd deer that she's hit with that car. And she was coming back from visiting her parents in Michigan, and I was here taking care of the puppies. And she got to Cincinnati, and 2 deers jump out in front of her early in the morning. And, we just got word today that they have decided that the car is going to be totaled. It was completely wrecked.
Wow. I mean, and she's okay.
Yeah, I mean, the airbag went off, whole 9 yards.
Good.
Very serious damage. We think 1 deer got killed, the other was injured, but I don't know. It was, they run off into the woods, and you don't know.
Man, they will just pop up in front of you too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to. It's hard to see them until you see them, and then a lot of times it's too late.
Yeah, so I'm getting up to take care of the dogs on Sunday morning, and she's on her way back, and the phone goes off, and she said, the last thing she said to me, call me when you get up. I won't call you. You call me. And I'm so she's calling me. She said she wasn't going to call me. But so I picked up and went, hey, hold on a minute. I'm dealing with the dogs. And she said, I can. What's the matter? I just hit 2 deer, and I can't drive my car. Thank goodness there was a state patrolman from Ohio there, not very far away.
Wow.
Got there, get this, got her, picked her up, took her to an Enterprise rental counter, By the time she got there, she'd been on the phone with the insurance company, and she picked up a rental car. She's back on the road. She only lost about an hour.
She's a multitasker.
She's multitasking, which I can't do. So she gets all the way home, and I said, "Did you think to get like the remote for the garage?" No. Did you think to get the license plate? No. Did you happen to remember the Glock that you had in the center hold? No. So guess what she had to do on Monday?
Drive
back up to Cincinnati to pick all that stuff up.
Oh man!
But we got word today they're going to total it, and so we're going out to look for her a new car. I don't know. Something that will withstand deer strikes, because apparently, I don't think she's done with them yet.
You need to just take her hunting, Brian. Just take her hunting.
I'm telling you.
When deer season comes back.
Yeah. Well, we're going to kill. Apparently, we kill deer here whether we hunt or not at our house.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say. It's open season all year long.
We got a lot more stuff to talk about here. We'll catch up throughout the show, but it's good chatting with you again. And right now, it's time for the news with Ken Weaver.
Full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes, and now we have learned that at least one of the 10 people shot in a mall today in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, has died. That's according to the police chief. It happened at the Mall of Louisiana there, Chief T.J. Morse.
It does not appear to be just a random act of violence, but a very targeted kind of disagreement between two groups of people.
Yeah, police say they're working to make arrests. Operation Epic Fury, don't rush me. That was President Trump's repeated reaction at the White House when asked by reporters about when the war in Iran might wind down or when ships might once again move freely through the Strait of Hormuz.
Don't rush me, Jeff. Guys like you want to say, oh, so we were in Vietnam like for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We're in for I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks.
President Trump says the U.S. controls the Strait of Hormuz, and each day it is closed costs the regime in Iran $500 million a day. But earlier today, Iran claimed that it collected and deposited a toll from a ship navigating the strait. Marijuana getting a new treatment from the federal government. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche ordering state-licensed medical cannabis moved to a less restrictive drug classification. The decision could bring tax relief and expanded research into marijuana's medical benefits. Federal officials emphasize recreational use still not legal nationwide on the federal level. The federal shift on marijuana stops at the Tennessee border. State lawmakers passed a bill this year ensuring federal rescheduling does not loosen Tennessee's marijuana laws unless the legislature approves it. And the federal rescheduling does not cancel hemp-derived THC sales. That's the latest news. Weather's next. So is traffic. I'm Ken Weaver, WDN News. Crashes 40 eastbound near Broadway. On the west end, 440 westbound at exit 1. Belmont area, 65 southbound near Wedgwood. And in Rowell Hill, a crash Stewart's Ferry Pike near Bell Road. It is complete stop-and-go brake tapping if you're eastbound 440 over to 24 and both directions 40 in between downtown and the eastern split. I'm Ken Weaver.
Fellas, let's talk for a moment. Now, you ladies can listen up, too, because if I describe anything that might relate to your fella, then you might want to nudge him and encourage him to get over to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. It's kind of a direct call to men. If you're feeling wiped out when you wake up, if your waistline is creeping up, bedroom confidence may be slipping. Friends, you feel it, you notice it, she notices it, and now it's time to do something about it. You don't have to suffer in silence. You don't have to accept that this is just the way things are. Tennessee Men's Clinic treated more men in Tennessee for performance-related issues than anyone else, and they have 7 separate clinics across this great state, and many right here in Middle Tennessee, like Cool Springs, like Clarksville, and like Nashville, Tennessee. Friends, this works. The treatment works, but it is unique to you and your situation. Patients are treated like people. You come in, and for less than $100, they take you back. They examine you from tip to stern. They get a little blood work from you. They see what's going on with your testosterone levels or whatever it might be. Friends, I want you to call and book that appointment today. You do not have to live like this, and you can get back in the game, men, with the Tennessee Men's Clinic, 615-208-9090, 615-208-9090, or online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com, TennesseeMen'sClinic.com.
It is 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson. Hello, everyone out there on Super Talk TV. We are on all the streaming platforms. You can find us. Matt is off. He's feeling a little under the weather. Be back soon, maybe tomorrow. I'm not real sure, but one way or the other. I'm here all the way till 7 o'clock, and we're hoping that he gets to feeling better real quick. He was, when I talked to him today, he was headed over to see the doc. So maybe he'll be back tomorrow. If not, there's a pretty good chance I'll be here tomorrow. We'll find out. It's all up to Matt. In the meantime, I'd like to take you to the swamp if I could and tell you about some of the swampy things that are going on. Hey, when's the last time you heard that? There's somebody in the swamp. The swamp is still as swampy as it's ever been, but there are some things going on there that I think are very interesting. Here we go. The Trump administration reclassifies marijuana as a less dangerous drug. This is a policy shift that could make it easier to buy and sell pot and reward investors in the multi-billion-dollar cannabis industry. The Trump administration, according to the Wall Street Journal, is reclassifying marijuana as a less dangerous drug. Significant policy shift. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed an order Thursday that moves marijuana out of the government's most restrictive drug classification. Marijuana has been classified as a Schedule I drug since 1970, alongside LSD and heroin. The action downgrades marijuana to Schedule III, making it obtainable with a prescription. The move marks the greatest softening of federal cannabis policy since U.S. states began legalizing recreational marijuana in 2012. And it sets up a faster process by which states licensed marijuana producers and distributors can register with the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, and also makes it clear that researchers won't be punished for obtaining pot products for use in their work. The order is also for the first time, allows state-licensed medical marijuana companies to deduct business expenses on their federal taxes. Mr. Trump, President Trump, a teetotaler who does not drink or do drugs, told his administration to push forward on easing marijuana restrictions after an aggressive lobbying push by advocates, including cannabis CEO, a Florida sheriff, and a Mar-a-Lago member, the Wall Street Journal has previously reported. So there you have that. Here's another version of that story from the Associated Press. Trump reclassifies state-licensed medical marijuana as a less dangerous drug in a historic shift, or an historic shift. All right, Ken Weaver, need a ruling on this. Is it a historic shift or an historic shift? I think he's busy. All right. Well,
I believe it's a historic shift.
Well, I think so too, RJ. That's the way I would do it. But I know that some people, when it's a letter that starts, a word starts with H, they go with an. I've never known.
I can see that.
An or a. Well, anyway, it's a historic shift.
Definitely is.
Not that important to the grand scheme of things, I suppose. And so we'll see how that all plays out. I did some research today on this very topic. 40 states have some form of marijuana legalization. It's either medical marijuana or recreational, right? So there are 24 states that have recreational marijuana. So we're talking basically about half of the states have recreational marijuana. Another 16 have medical marijuana, and 10 states in the United States do not have either the recreational or the medical. So 40 have medical, 40 have some kind of law, 24 recreational, 16 medical, 10 states have none. And, of course, Tennessee is one of the states that does not have any law. Every time it comes up before the state ledge, they have a conversation about it, and they say, well, and I got to tell you, I am one of those people who has slowly changed his opinion about this kind of thing. And I'll tell you what did it. I've already said this, so if you've heard the story, just bear with me. I'll tell it quickly. I got a bad case of shingles. I mean, it was bad. It was really bad. And I was in a lot of pain. Even though it was many years ago, believe it or not, I still have what they call post-herpetic neuralgia, which is I continue to have pain from that. And it makes it very difficult for me to sleep. Well, you go to the doctor, I need something to help you sleep. Well, what are they going to give you? They're going to give you Ambien? I don't want to take Ambien. They're going to give you, some kind of other, I don't know, what do you call it? Some kind of painkiller. I'm very worried about that.
Or they use over-counter stuff like melatonin, right?
Yeah, I've tried all of that stuff. And so what I ended up doing it's sort of like out of desperation, I wasn't sleeping. And I knew that I was going to be in a lot worse shape if I couldn't get some sleep, but I was in so much pain I couldn't sleep. I went down and I got some of the gummies, but the ones that are made out of hemp.
Oh, yeah, I've had those.
Still had THC in it. But you know what? It was the only thing that worked. It was, and quite frankly, I don't feel any side effects by it all. It just takes the edge off enough that I can go to sleep at night. And you know, I'm not proud of that. But I have done it. And I was so adamant against marijuana, and I still am, I think, especially smoking marijuana. But I now can see that there are elements within the marijuana that could be used in productive ways. It can help people who have chronic pain. It can help people for some other stuff as well. I'm not, the first person to come to that realization. But when it was the only thing that I could find that would allow me to catch sleep at a time when I was, because I'll tell you what really is the downside of that is doctors don't like to give you painkillers. They don't like to give you opioids. They'll give you one round, but then they won't refill. So you got to find something. And for me, this was the solution. So my opinion has changed about that. What will happen in Tennessee? I don't get the sense that the state legislature is ready to consider this yet. But out of 50 states, we're one of only 10 that don't have medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. So there you go. Again, more stuff from the swamp. Senators to introduce, I love this story, Hot Rotisserie Chicken Act for SNAP recipients. Bipartisan group of senators on Tuesday introduced the Hot Rotisserie Chicken Act to help Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program recipients use their benefits to buy a rotisserie chicken. The amendment would amend the 2008 Food and Nutrition Act by modifying the definition of food to add hot rotisserie chicken. According to a joint statement about the bill from Senator John Fetterman's office, it would not increase funding for SNAP or participant eligibility or allow all hot foods to be included for purchase. But they, $4.99 for a Costco rotisserie chicken, that's a pretty good meal for a family at a reasonable cost. So why can't you? You should be able to use your SNAP benefits. So I think that will probably go through. I do think it was right of them to say sugary drinks and the candy. No, we're not doing that. Not under SNAP benefits. But a chicken is a nutritious meal for $5. So that's what they're doing. Senate Republicans adopted a budget resolution during a late-night voting marathon that lasted until early this morning, setting the stage for Congress to vote next month on a budget reconciliation package that will fund immigration enforcement and reopen the Department of Homeland Security. Measure passed 50 to 48 at 3:30 a.m. Lisa Murkowski and Rand Paul joined all of the Democrats to vote against the measure. So that will go forward. It will take a little while. The reconciliation process is slow but sure and is a way to get around all of this nonsense. So looks like that's going to happen, and that will be a good thing. Also, you may have heard down in the swamp, the Navy Secretary was fired yesterday after apparently some feud with Pentagon leaders, including Pete Hegseth. Secretary of the Nation John Phelan was fired Wednesday after months of feuding with the Pentagon bosses over his handling of President Trump's Golden Fleet shipbuilding initiative. Tensions among Phelan, War Secretary Hegseth, and Deputy War Secretary Stephen Feinberg had been simmering for months, according to the New York Times and a Republican source. Phelan didn't get along with Pentagon brass, and his management and leadership style were incongruent with Hegseth and Feinberg, one GOP source familiar with the fired Navy Secretary standing at the Pentagon told the New York Post. Administration wants to accelerate shipbuilding. Feinberg had been gradually diverting responsibility for the major project away from Phelan, the New York Times had reported. So there you have the new guy's Hung Kao. He's apparently a Navy veteran and will take over in the near future. And so, but, apparently one of the things you read about this whole incident is that Phelan got told by Hegseth, you're fired. I'm sorry. You'll no longer be the Secretary of Navy. You need to resign. And he didn't believe that it had come from the president. So he ends up going to the White House and demanding to see the president to find out if this really came from the president. And the president walked in and said, no, you're fired. So that was the end of that, apparently. I don't know if there's anything more to tell about that, but we'll watch it. Coming up in just a moment, I haven't talked about it, and I know a lot of people have no doubt seen the story about former Tennessee Titan coach Mike Vrabel, now the coach of the Patriots, and this reporter by the name of Diana Rossini. There are new developments in that story, and I'll bring you all the sordid details in just a moment. Right now it is 50 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk.
At least one person has died in that shooting at a mall in Louisiana. We're getting some new information about the wildfires ravaging parts of Georgia. And President Trump says he's in no hurry to settle the war with Iran. He'll tell us why coming up at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
55 minutes past the hour, 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for the under the weather Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Ken Weaver in the newsroom. RJ pushing the blinky buttons today, and we'll be here all the way till 7 o'clock. I saw this story this morning, and I was, of course, I have, you can't help but notice this story about Mike Vrabel, former coach of the Tennessee Titans, and this reporter Diana Rossini, the sports reporter, and questions about whether or not they may have had a relationship while being married to other people. And the story this morning was that Vrabel will not be there during the NFL draft for rounds 4 through 7, which start on Saturday. And I went, wow. I mean, he's already held a press conference. He didn't deny it. He talked about it briefly, but didn't give a lot of information. But I thought it pretty much blown over. Then comes this word that he's going to take Saturday away from the draft and go to counseling of some kind. And I thought, well, what is that all about? And so, here we go. Here's the story from Fox News. New England Patriots coach Mike Vrabel, embroiled in a controversy involving his relationship with former NFL reporter Diana Rossini, is stepping away from the team indefinitely to seek counseling and to be with his family. The news, first reported on ESPN, means Vrabel will miss part of NFL draft, begins on Thursday, today, and runs all the way through Saturday. Vrabel will be away from the team the entire day on Saturday, and the other stories have said he has told people he will be going to counseling. And I thought, well, what drove that? And now I know. When reporters are working on a story, they will call you up and say, hey, tomorrow we're going to run this story. These are the basic facts that we're going to report. I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to this in some way, if you care to do so. And you may choose to or not to, but at least it's one of the things that a responsible journalist should do. This is what we're going to report. This is tough, but, I wanted you to know, and if you have anything you'd like to say, we want to include it in the story. So you get sort of tipped off about a day before a big story breaks, right? So the new news this morning was Mike Vrabel is not going to be at the draft on Saturday because he's going to counseling. What is really going on here? Well, it became very clear that the New York Times had some pretty bombshell stuff. Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini were all over each other at a secluded bar in New York City 6 years before they were caught holding hands and hugging at an Arizona resort. As seen in exclusive pictures obtained by Page Six, the New England Patriots coach and the NFL reporter were spotted together inside the dimly lit Tribeca Tavern in the early hours of March 11th, 2020. They sat close to each other while conversing at the bar, and there, ladies and gentlemen, are pictures. So that's what's going on with that particular story. We got a lot to cover here. We're talking about the midterm elections. I think the midterm elections, we may be in better shape for the midterm elections than a lot of people think. And I'll tell you why I feel that way. We'll talk about crazy Democrats and some parenting advice before the show is all over with here today. You're listening to the Matt Murphy Show. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. It is time at 5 o'clock for the news with Ken Weaver.
5 o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And at least one person's dead, 9 others hurt. This after 2 groups of people started shooting each other at a mall in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Here's Police Chief T.J. Morse.
What we found out looking through surveillance videos, it looks like it was kind of a targeted 2 groups of people got into an argument inside the food court and started shooting at each other.
Unfortunately, some innocent bystanders were hit by the bullets. Police have made some arrests and are working on more. In an instant, the firefighting operation in Georgia has changed. Here's Brantley County Manager Joey Kaysen.
This situation has changed in the last hour. It went from being something that they were really working on mopping up to a very hot fire that could jump another road while we're standing here.
Yeah, he says more evacuations have been ordered. Operation Epic Fury, President Trump says he is in no hurry to settle the war with Iran. And he says the strait will reopen when he says so.
We have total control of the strait. And the fact that it's closed, you know, they would have opened it up 3 days ago. They came to us and they said, we will agree to open the strait. And all my people were happy. Everybody was happy except me. I said, wait a minute, if we open the strait, that means they're going to make $500 million a day. I don't want them to make $500 million a day until they settle this thing.
Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche has announced a major shift in federal marijuana policy. The Justice Department reclassifying state-licensed medical marijuana and FDA-approved cannabis products as Schedule III drugs, which recognizes medical use and eases restrictions on research and taxes for medical marijuana businesses. Federal officials stress this does not legalize recreational marijuana on the federal level nationwide. And even with marijuana downgraded at the federal level, Tennessee law stays the same. Lawmakers moved this year to prevent federal rescheduling from triggering a state review. Supporters say it keeps policy decisions in lawmakers' hands. Critics argue it shuts the door on medical marijuana progress. And the Justice Department's move today does not immediately change the status of hemp-derived THC products. Those products are legal under the federal Farm Bill for now, as long as they meet hemp limits on THC. That said, experts say the policy shift puts renewed pressure on Congress and states to revisit those laws. The NTSB says school buses should come with ignition interlock devices to prevent their use by drunk bus drivers. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
The NTSB points to a school bus rollover crash in West Virginia in 2024. 3 students were seriously injured. One boy had to have his leg amputated. Police determined the bus driver was drunk, with a blood alcohol level twice the legal limit. The safety board now says NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, should require all new school buses to be equipped with alcohol detection devices. And it again urges states to ensure that new buses come with seatbelts and require that students wear them.
That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, just one crash working right now. Right shoulder block, 440 westbound near West End. But we still have a stop-and-go brake tapping, especially eastbound 440 to 24, eastbound 24 beyond Briley Parkway, and then eastbound to South Loop over to 65, northbound 65 up to the South Loop. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Brian Wilson in the chair for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Matt is a little under the weather, and so I am filling in till further notice, but he may be back tomorrow, maybe back on Monday. Not sure, so we just want him to feel better. That's what we want. Running a little fever, but he's okay. I want to do some crazy Democrat stuff. We haven't done any crazy Democrat news in a while, and gosh, there's just a ton of it, right? Ilhan Omar, Representative Ilhan Omar, may well be tied to $250 million worth of fraud. Now, here's the background. Remember, just the other day, the big story about Ilhan Omar was that she had posted her financial statements, which you're required to do when you're a member of Congress. And the last ones had said that she was worth like, I don't know, $100 million. Well, I'll get the exact number. I want to get it right. Here it is. $30 million. An amended report recently revised her and her husband's reported assets from $30 million to down to under $100,000. Aides attributed it to accounting errors. That is one hell of an accounting error, isn't it? I can't do math, but I think I could do better than that. And now comes the new development. Minnesota state lawmakers accused Representative Ilhan Omar D. Minnesota of taking part in a scheme that stole more than $250 million in federal funds. The allegations surfaced during a fraud oversight hearing Tuesday led by the GOP-controlled Minnesota House Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee. That's a mouthful. Newsmax reached out to Omar's office seeking comment on the lawmakers' allegations. Lawmakers pointed to Omar's role in advancing legislation they said helped enable the Feeding Our Future scheme. At issue is the Maintaining Essential Access for Lunch of Students Meals Act, introduced by Omar in 2020 during the COVID pandemic, the Washington Examiner reported. Omar's bill expanded eligibility for food distribution to participate in a federally funded child nutrition program, allowing non-school children entities to receive reimbursement. Republican lawmakers argued those expanded provisions weakened safeguards and opened the door for widespread abuse. From the New York Post, Ilhan Omar explodes at reporter for asking about multi-million-dollar disclosure discrepancy. Quote, boy, this is high-level dialogue from a member of Congress. You're stupid for asking me anything. Again, New York Post. Far-left Representative Ilhan Omar blew up at reporters this week for asking questions about accounting discrepancies the Democrat blamed for overstating her net worth by millions of dollars on financial disclosure forms. In May of last year, as I told you, she claimed she and her husband, Tim Minett, held assets between $6 and $30 million. Then they amended a filing and said, no, that was just a rounding error. Our wealth is somewhere between $18,000 and $95,000 a year. And she apparently really got ugly with TV reporters who tried to stop her in the hallway and asked that question. I won't tell you jack you know what about that. Have a good day. So there is that. In other crazy Democrat news, some people think that AOC is rising as a 2028 candidate for the presidency. I know, I can't figure that out at all. I mean, when I hear that, I want to go, that's just not right. A new national survey conducted by Echelon Insights and led by pollster Kristen Anderson Solis finds a Democrat Party that is both ideologically conflicted and strategically focused as it weighs 2028 leadership choices. At the top of the prospective 2028 Democratic primary field, Kamala Harris. Give me all the Kamala Harris you want to give me, man. I'll take all that. Gavin Newsom, essentially tied. Give me all the Gavin Newsom you want. I'm not worried about him at all. Harris drawing 22% support and Newsom close behind at 21%, suggesting no clear frontrunner has consolidated the party base. All right, so where's AOC in all of this? A poll conducted among 1,012 likely voters has a plus or minus a 3.5 percentage point, found that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez placed in fourth with a solid 10%. Other contenders, Josh Shapiro, Senator Cory Booker, Maryland Governor Wes Moore, I think he's going to wash out. Mark Kelly, I'm not sure that he's the guy. But, I mean, again, if Kamala Harris, I'll take that. Democrats want to nominate Kamala Harris. Whoever we put up in 28, that's just fine with me. Gavin Newsom, I got no issues with Gavin Newsom. He's just a guy with a good haircut. There's no there. AOC, if you want to nominate AOC, knock yourself out. Again, she is an intellectual lightweight. She has not done her homework. She still doesn't understand how Washington works. She doesn't have a clue. But apparently there are a lot of people out there who just like her, and that raises the question, is the Democrat Party now moving more towards socialism? And it seems very clear that that's going on. So there is that. And other news regarding Democrat and organs of the left, I would be remiss if I did not spend some time talking about this investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center. This is, if true, this is about the most amazing story that I think I've seen in some time. Here is Fox News correspondent Steve Harrigan doing a report that includes a soundbite from the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche of the United States. Take a listen to this.
The Department of Justice is even going a step further, saying this organization actually helped to incite racial hatred in order to boost its own profit.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
Unbelievable. The Southern Poverty Law Center, according to the Department of Justice, sent about $3 million to some of the people that they claim that they are aligned against. Let's see. This is from the frontpagemag.com. The SPLC's indictment revealed that the organization, which claimed to be fighting the KKK and white supremacists, was funding them instead. The Southern Poverty Law Center claimed it was paying informants, but $3 million is a lot of money to pay for tips. And at least in the case of the Charlottesville Unite the Right rally, the one that Democrats did their best to falsely link Trump to, that Biden cited his reasons for running. I mean, when Biden said, I ran, well, it was all about what happened in Charlottesville. And Trump was, he was the bad guy and all that. No, apparently not. Over the years, the Freedom Center investigates documented repeated examples of fraudulent behavior by the SPLC, included efforts to artificially inflate the number of hate groups. The best way to understand the SPLC was that it started out as a fraud that eventually morphed into an authentic woke effort to censor conservatives, but the fraud was always there. Look, here's what was going on. The SPLC maybe at one time had noble beginnings and noble leadership. I don't know. I don't have all of that history at my fingertips. But over time, The only way that they can remain relevant is if they can make people believe that there is racial hatred and still left in America. Now, I'm not saying all racial hatred has gone away, but it's a lot better than it used to be. I mean, this nation has elected a black man as our president. This nation has chosen a black woman as a party nominee. I mean, I get where, the SPLC may have started out with noble intentions, but honestly, I don't think that we're much of a racist nation. It says the white guy. Okay, give me that. I'll give you that one. But one way or the other, if you don't have an enemy, then you become irrelevant. The way that they continued to get funding was, it appears, they were sending money to their opponents on the other side to keep them out there doing the things that they do, the KKK and the Aryan Nation and all. They were sending them money to get them so they could still show up and do the stuff that they do so that they could raise money over at the Southern Poverty Law Center. It was if these allegations are accurate, they were running a false flag operation. And I got to tell you, we see things all the time on our side of the, you got these yahoos out there who are with the Aryan Nation, or they're with the KKK, or there's some kind of right extremist group, or the way they're out there. And I go, there's something about this that doesn't feel right. There's something about this that feels like, this is a setup. This is like a false flag operation. And every time we would say, everybody say, see, you can't, that's always the answer. Oh, you Republicans, you will call anything that happens out there, with these people, a false flag operation. Well, maybe it was a false flag operation. In other words, they were supporting these organizations that they said they were out there to combat in order to remain relevant and in order to raise money. And that is the allegation that has been leveled here. Unbelievable if true. I've often felt that a lot of the stuff that we see out on the streets that generates a lot of Democrat interest, the Proud Boys, or this, that, or the other, whatever it is, on the right. They'll say, well, look, we have to be out there because look at these racists that are still there. Racism is still a problem in America. We still have problems on this, and we still have problems on that. And these guys are bad, and these brown shirts are bad, and they just keep talking about it. Well, I mean, it gets everybody riled up. And when they're riled up, what do? They give donations to the Southern Poverty Law Center. So they could invest $3 million over a number of years to support people within those organizations and have them go out there and protest and roil the racial waters and to cause problems in America, so that the Southern Poverty Law Center could then go to their supporters and say, you've got to support us. Look what's going on here. Look, maybe at the end of the day, maybe they were paying informants and they can prove it. This started as an investigation during the Biden years, and the Biden people walked away from it. And I can understand why. It'd be deeply embarrassing. But when you hear Kash Patel talk about this, when you hear other folks talk about it, and you hear about the Attorney General talk about it, they are going forward with this case because they believe there is a case to be made. And sometimes, on our side of the equation, when you accuse us of being, just a bunch of conspiracy theorists, when we say it's a false flag operation, well, you're just a conspiracy theorist. Well, you know what? How many conspiracies have proven to be right? I mean, I was always a little skeptical about that kind of stuff. But more and more and more, they are truly evil and will do anything to stay relevant, to raise money, and to roil the waters. It's the way they think that they can win elections and a whole lot of other stuff. When they paint us as a bunch of racists and that we have connections to these groups, they are playing politics, and at the end of the day, they may have been supporting the same people that they said that they were against. Wow. Just an amazing An amazing story. Oh, and here's, when I come back in a moment, I got to play this soundbite. Chuck Schumer doing everything he can to continue to support the SPLC. We'll get to that in just a moment. 20 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7.
Down, and you've seen perhaps mortgage rates come down. I experienced it several months ago as we finalized our mortgage on our new property in Mount Pleasant, and I got a good rate through Accurate Mortgage. And let me tell you something, friends, if you're thinking about moving, you can get some acceptable rates. They've come down from their highs, and now is the time because we've hit a kind of a honey spot where housing prices have gone down. Interest rates are now sliding down as well, and so you get that honey hole and you can get a good deal. And obviously, you marry the mortgage, you date the interest rate anyway. Secondarily, if you're thinking about refinancing because you've got high interest credit card debt or higher interest debt, generally speaking, you can do that right now at Accurate Mortgage and get a great deal on that too. If you're thinking of building onto your home, a home construction loan is possible as well. Here's the wonderful thing. Accurate Mortgage, you're not just a number. They're never going to advise you to do anything that doesn't make sense for you financially. Listen, friends, when the time comes, and I hope it comes soon, it's time to call Accurate Mortgage. You begin that journey on their website, AccurateMTG.com, AccurateMTG.com. Accurate Mortgage, NMLS 129944, rates and terms subject to change, equal housing lender.
Bullets fly in a busy mall in Louisiana. At least one person dead. Innocents were injured. Wildfires spreading in southern Georgia. President Trump says he's in no hurry to end the war on Iran. And he says the Strait of Hormuz, well, we'll let you know what he says about that at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver, 25 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy, who should be back tomorrow or maybe on Monday. We'll find. We don't really know, but we're hoping he's feeling better because he was going to see the doc today and a little under the weather. So here I am. We were talking about this whole thing involving the what is it, the SPLC, the Southern Poverty Law Center, and how they were apparently, according to the Department of Justice, sending money over to, organizations like the KKK and to keep them alive and have them go out and do protests that made the Southern Poverty Law Center relevant and helped them raise money. So they spend a little money to be able to raise a lot more. It's just bizarre, though. I mean, you purport to be against, things that have to do with racism, yet you're out there roiling the racial waters in order to still have something that makes your organization look relevant. If there is no racism, you don't need a Southern Poverty Law Center. But if you go out there and you roil the waters and you keep racism alive, then there has to be a reason for you, right? Here's what the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche had to say.
Saying this organization actually helped to incite racial hatred in order to boost its own profit.
The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred.
Now, of course, the Democrats have come quickly to the rescue of that. We got to be reaching. This is the Southern Poverty Law Center. We got to get in there. They're our folks. We got to go out there and defend them. This is about 2 minutes long. This is Schumer on the floor of the United States Senate talking about this very issue.
I just want to say a quick word about the deeply disturbing charges the Justice Department has brought against the Southern Poverty Law Center. These charges should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about free expression.
Well, they do. They do send a chill down my spine. Thank you very much. I'm very, very troubled by what I've heard in this allegation.
And the rule of law in the Justice Department. It should send a chill down the spine of every American who cares about civil liberties and the fight against violence extremism. Let's be clear what this case is all about, is really about. It has nothing to do with alleged wire fraud or with the Southern Poverty Law Center somehow working in coordination with the KKK. That's ridiculous on its face. It doesn't pass the laugh test.
Are you sure? Do you know that for sure? I mean, there's a lot of stuff we're learning of late that I would have never imagined was true, but turns out to be true.
It's about Donald Trump turning the Department of Justice into the Department of Vengeance, his own attack dog. He's done it time and time and time again.
Oh, and we never saw any of that during the Biden administration. Not a bit of it, did we?
And when you think it can't get worse, it does. To attack the Southern Poverty Law Center of collaboration and accuse it of collaboration with their known enemy, the KKK, weaponizing the DOJ to indict civil rights groups is not law and order. It's a message. If you defend voting rights, if you fight white supremacy, you're next. Donald Trump will use the federal government to go after any group that dares to speak out against them. This is amazing. In 1983, the Ku Klux Klan tried to burn down the Southern Poverty Law Center for daring to expose its hatred. More than 4 decades later, the Trump administration is trying to do the same thing in the courtroom. It's an absolute disgrace. How far this administration goes down turning what America's all about, inside out.
Well, I mean, it would seem to me that the real question is that what the Southern Poverty Law Center did? Did they turn America inside out? Are they roiling the racial waters of racial hatred in America in order to just remain relevant, to raise more money, to make the Republicans look bad? look, let the facts come out. Let us do the investigation. But if true, this is unbelievable stuff. Really unbelievable stuff. We'll keep an eye on that particular story for you, I promise you. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock. Time for the news with Ken Weaver on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes, and we're monitoring that situation in Louisiana where 10 people were shot at a mall in Baton Rouge. One person has died. Some of those injured were innocent bystanders, according to Chief T.J. Morse, who says they believe this was an incident involving two groups of people in a food court that stemmed from an argument.
What we found out looking through surveillance videos, it looks like it was kind of a targeted, two groups of people got into an argument inside the food court and started shooting at each other.
Police have made several arrests. Meanwhile, wildfires spreading in southern Georgia.
Understand we currently have now 87 basically living spaces, living places that have been destroyed.
That's Brantley County Manager Joey Kaysen. He says more evacuations have been ordered. Operation Epic Fury, President Trump says he's in no hurry to end the war on Iran and that the Strait of Hormuz will reopen when he says so.
I don't want to rush it. I want to take my time. We have plenty of time, and I want to get a great deal. I want to get a deal where our nation and the world is safe from lunatics with nuclear weapon.
By the way, President Trump says Israel will now hold off on bombing Hezbollah sites in Lebanon for another 3 weeks. And a major shift in federal marijuana policy today. The federal government easing its stance on medical marijuana. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche signed an order moving certain marijuana products from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under federal law, which expands medical research and reduces regulatory hurdles for state-licensed medical cannabis programs. Recreational marijuana remains illegal at the federal level, and this federal shift stops at the Tennessee border. State lawmakers have passed a bill ensuring federal rescheduling does not loosen Tennessee's marijuana laws unless the legislature approves it. And the Justice Department's action does not affect hemp-derived THC products sold legally in Tennessee or elsewhere for now. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Crashes. One in West Nashville, 40 westbound, just west of I-440. Belmont area, 440 eastbound, past Hillsborough Pike. Sobro, Korean Veterans Boulevard at First Avenue, Hermitage Avenue. Percy Warner Park, a crash. Old Hickory Boulevard near Chickering Road. It is complete stop and go. Eastbound 24 from 440, both directions of 40 between downtown and the eastern split, and north and southbound 65 between the South Loop and 440. I'm Ken Weaver.
Legendary coach Lou Holtz once said, before people spend money, they ask 3 questions. Can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence? And do you care about me? Friends, it's Matt Murphy, and I can say with Eurofix, those 3 answers are an emphatic yes, yes, and yes. Back in 1999, owner Aaron Stokes was by himself in a one-car garage in downtown Franklin. A few months later, he moved into a shop in a barn behind his house so he could stay close to his family while building his dream of offering the best European vehicle repair at below dealer pricing. Flash forward to today. The barn's gone, and sadly, I'm here to say that Aaron is gone too. But Eurofix is continuing that tradition that he laid out over the 26 years that he was a part of the Eurofix family and really the driving force behind it. Thriving in 5 separate locations: Nashville, Franklin, Belmead, Murfreesboro, and Mount Juliet. 3-year, 36,000-mile nationwide warranty. Free, a rental car available at every appointment. Friends, it is time. If you want solid European auto repair, get to Eurofix. Go to myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com.
It is 37 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy, who's a little under the weather today. Ken Weaver is there, busy, working in the little newsroom cubicle, and RJ is pushing the blinky button. So we are with you here all the way till 7 o'clock. Glad to be with you. I heard some very nice things. People have made some very nice comments about good to hear my voice on the air. Well, it's good to be back on the air, and I really do appreciate the opportunity to come back and be with you from time to time because, quite frankly, the Bulldogs are getting really, really tired of me. So I want to talk, if I can, a little bit about the midterm election. I hear a great deal of negative commentary about how we're going to get killed in the midterm election. We may get killed in the midterm election. I mean, if past is prologue, if you look at the history of these things, the party in power does not do well in midterm elections. That's just, I mean, that's the way it is for all parties in power, and you can really get your butt kicked. And people look at, well, we are in the middle of this thing in Iran, and the gas prices have gone up, and they're panicking about, how that's going to have an impact on the midterm elections. And I say, people, catch your breath, would you? Catch your breath just for a moment or two. Yeah, gas prices have gone up. I looked today to see where we are. See, I've got it right here on my little legal pad, so it's legal. Tennessee average gas today, $3.72 a gallon. The national average, $4.03. Davidson County, where the gas is always more expensive for some reason. I'm sorry, Davidson, no, it's Williamson County where it's so expensive. $3.97 in Williamson, $3.77 Davidson, $3.60 Wilson, Murray and Robertson County, $3.72 a gallon. Okay, I mean, it's bad, but we've seen worse. And I don't think it's going to be that way very long, because as soon as this thing comes to an end, those prices are going to come down pretty. Will it come all the way down? No, maybe not. They're going to have to rebuild some infrastructure in the Mideast, but it won't. It should be okay in the United States. Should be coming down pretty quick. The president doesn't quite want to be pressed on, all of this sense of urgency. You've got to get wrapped up. You've got to get this thing over with in Iran. I think we still have plenty of time. I think he's right when he says.
So we were in Vietnam for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We're in for I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And their military is totally defeated. They're outside of the little wise guy ships, I call them the wise guy ships, the little boats that they have running around with guns in them. And we'll take them out too when we see them. But their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, all of their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Maybe they loaded up a little bit during the 2-week hiatus, but we'll knock that out in about 1 day if they did. We've done an amazing job. Their leaders are gone. Their leaders are all gone. Part of the problem is that, that's why I can't really answer your question, they have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control. And because we've created a real mess for them, but they've created a mess for the world over the last 47 years. They've killed a lot of our people.
He's right about that. I mean, we really hit them hard, especially in the very early going, when we wiped out levels and levels of their leadership. And so what you have in Iran right now is a country where the communications are not the best. Left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. But what you really have is a political vacuum. The leadership, levels and layers and layers and layers of leadership gone. Now, politics abhors a vacuum. And when there's nobody in charge, now you have all of these Iranian Revolutionary Guard and people and a bunch of other clerics who want to rise up and take over and be in charge. And so it's hard to know in these negotiations if you're negotiating with the right person. And if you negotiate with who you think is the right person and you get close to a deal and then the details of that deal start to come out, then somebody else over here, completely unaware of what's been going on, says, oh, no, we won't. And then they'll go out there and they'll cause trouble. Left-hand, right-hand thing in Iran's pretty bad right now. But give them a few days to work through that and to see if we can get this resolved. And I have a suspicion it could be over by the weekend. But even if it's not, we still have time. Everybody just needs to take a deep breath because we're not that close to the midterm elections. Something pointed out by Mark Penn, a legendary pollster who's been looking at the numbers, and he seems to think that maybe things are not going to be as bad for the GOP as some have suggested.
Well, midterms. I've never heard so much talk about a midterm election 6 months out as though this election was being held today. We are a long way from determining the outcome of this election. And if you notice, like the Fox poll showed, actually, you would think that with all the hullabaloo about the Iran conflict, that the Republicans would have gone down. They didn't go down. They actually closed a point. They're actually much closer in the midterm ballot than they were a couple of months ago. So you're not seeing kind of a building wave here. You're seeing that it's very much a divided country. I think this thing is probably closer than most people think.
Wait, that's important. Not seeing a blue wave. We're really still a 50-50 country. I think the numbers suggest that. I mean, normally the numbers would be looking pretty bad right now, even though we're still 6 months out. But Fox News has in the midterm election the generic congressional vote. In other words, who are you going to vote for in Congress, a Republican or a Democrat? That's the generic question. Fox News has it up, and you know, look, the Democrats always do better in the polling than do the Republicans, but one way or the other, Fox News has the Democrats leading only by 5 points at this point. I've seen midterms at this point where it's like plus 12. And you wonder, oh my gosh, how are they going to overcome that? Overcoming, according to Fox News, a 5-point advantage right now. It's D plus 5. That's not that difficult to overcome. CNBC says it's Democrats plus 4 in that generic question about who you're going to vote for in Congress. 2 others have it at D plus 3. Well, he's right. Here's more from Mark Penn.
With a lot of developments really to occur here. What's going to happen with energy prices in Iran? What's going to happen with the jobs numbers and economy and growth around AI? The stock market is at a record. That suggests that some people at least think that this economy is headed in the right direction.
Well, I think maybe they are. I'm beginning to sense that people are. I mean, these numbers give me hope. Because I think people are now starting to realize, hey, you know what? I am a little better off than I was. Yeah, am I paying a lot for gas? Yeah, but my food prices are down. My medical prices are down. They did a big thing today where they were talking about another company, another pharmaceutical company that is coming on board with the TrumpRx.com, and that whole thing is saving people a ton of money on their prescription drugs. 17 companies have now agreed basically to sell their drugs at most favored nation price. So you're not going to hear these stories about, well, you can get this cheaper in Canada. No, you get it at the same price now. People are now getting their income tax refund checks. We're past, tax day on the 15th, just a few days. And now people are starting to get those refunds. And they're finding out, hey, look at this. I didn't have to pay taxes on Social Security. Hey, look at this. I didn't have to pay taxes on my tips. Hey, look, this is not bad. I've got money in my pocket. And when we start to spend that money, what does it do? It juices the economy. See, there is a grand plan in place. They had an idea. I don't think they would have gone to Iran before they dealt with Venezuela. That makes sense. Now they're dealing with Iran, and they may clean up in Cuba before they get it all done, but there's still going to be plenty of time, folks, trust me, for a period of quiet prosperity where people stop and realize, hey, things are a little calm now, and I've got money in my pocket that I didn't have before. I'll tell you somebody who thinks that they're going to be doing well in the midterm elections, and it's the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Here's what he had to say.
The Democrats last night were suggesting that somehow Republicans started the mid-cycle redistricting. That is not true. It started in 2024 in New York, you all remember. So the very people who are claiming that are the ones who helped orchestrate that boondoggle. They're the ones that started that, but it started even before then. I'll take you all the way back to Eric Holder, the Attorney General who left the Obama administration and went out to begin the redistricting battles. They started that, and that's why some states have almost entirely blue delegations and no Republicans, even though big percentages of their population vote Republican. So Democrats started this. The Republican states are doing what they can do lawfully under their state laws, and in a state like California, Virginia, they had to defy their own constitutions to play a dishonest game. The people are taking account of this. They're voting accordingly, and we are on track to win in November. Watch. We are on track.
Yeah, he seems to think he's going to be all right in the midterm elections. Now, again, he mentioned this. A lot of this discussion was about the Virginia congressional maps and how there was a referendum there. Do you know that the next day, Tuesday was the election, and voters in the Commonwealth of Virginia came forward and said, you know what, we really we want to adopt this new redistricting plan that will give Democrats 9 out of the 10 congressional seats that Virginia has. And the very next day, a state court judge said that's unconstitutional. That's really true. Let me see if I can get the. I want to see if I can find what the judge had to say. Oh yeah, here it is. The judge is named Jack Hurley, Tazewell County Circuit Court. He declares that all votes for and against Tuesday referendum were ineffective and bars state officials from certifying the results or taking any action to put the new maps passed by state lawmakers into effect. In a brief order, Hurley found that the referendum violated several clauses of the Kate state constitution, argued it skirted a 90-day public notice requirement, and calling the question that was presented to voters flagrantly misleading. So this is in the court's first round, struck down as unconstitutional in the Commonwealth of Virginia. They're talking about the Virginia Constitution here. Not constitutional. So, there's this battle going on. It may have started in New York. It happened in Texas. Now it may happen in Florida. We may end up doing a redistricting there that puts the state of Florida more securely in our state. It's going to be tit for tat, back and forth, back and forth. End of the day, I don't think it matters all that much. I think at the end of the day, what really matters is the economy doing better? Have people gotten to the point where they can now perceive that? And I think we have time for all of that to happen before we get to November. If I'm wrong, but it feels like we might be okay here. 50 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk to you for a moment about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Good Dr. Mitch, Dr. Ashley, and the rest of the team at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They're great people. I mean, not only are they fun folks, and they sponsor things like Nincompoops in the News, but they're also really, really good at what they do. And if you're in pain, you need Dr. Mitchell on your team. You need him as your provider for chiropractic care. They do so much over at the Wellness Institute. If you hurt anywhere, back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, wherever it hurts, they can alleviate that pain. You can stop taking the pills. You don't have to consider the surgery. You don't have to take spinal block. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that take blockers that block the pain. This is simply covering up the issue. Let's get to the root cause of the problem through non-surgical spinal decompression, through decompression, generally speaking, through the brand new HydroWave technology. It's all available at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Call them today at 615-246-5009, 246-5009, or online at painisbad.com. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Wellness Institute of Nashville, painisbad.com. It is difficult to find someone that you can trust in the HVAC industry, which is why I repeatedly tell you about Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. I trust this man as the day is long. He's got a great staff of people that work underneath him at Efficient Heating and Cooling. He does not strive to be the biggest HVAC company in the state of Tennessee. He simply wants to be the best, the most regarded. And I trust him, a small company with big service and big results in mind. He helped me when I moved into my new home. I put in a new HVAC unit. Thank you to Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. And now he wants you to give him a call if you've not done your maintenance yet on your HVAC, on your air conditioner. Time to do it. Plenty of time to get it done. And you get that maintenance guarantee when you get it done. And you never pay over $125, no matter how many units you have within their service area. There are elite pro partners with Rheem. When it comes time, they'll find the right unit for you and your family. All you need to do is make the call that so many others have made. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or online at efficienthvac.net.
At least 10 people shot at a mall in Louisiana. Wildfires still eating up homes in Georgia. President Trump says don't rush him on Iran. These stories and more coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right, thank you, my friend Ken Weaver. Good to have you along with me here today. It's always good to have the reassuring voice of Ken Weaver in the newsroom.
Well, thank you, Brother Brian. Checks in the mail.
Yeah. Man. And then maybe we just send you some cookies. You know, we're getting into the cookie business. And I think we're getting into I don't know. Maybe.
Boy.
But they sure are good, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And each one weighs about 5 pounds.
Yeah, I know. Hey, listen, speaking of food, somebody who won't be eating one of Cabana Wife's cookies is Jelly Roll. He's on a diet, you know. He was at one point, I think I have this right. I think he was at like over 500 pounds, 560 pounds.
He's a big boy. He was a big boy.
He was a big boy. Now he's down to about, he just, 275, something like that. He said he fell off the wagon around Christmas. He broke his collarbone. He couldn't exercise. He couldn't run, couldn't exercise, couldn't do that for an extended period of time. And he said he wants to get back into serious training. He wants to run a New York City marathon. Man. Wow. Yeah. He says he's still about 40, 50, maybe 60 pounds away from his perfect weight. He's at 276 right now, but he's back on it, and he says you gotta be able to, the most important muscles that you can develop are those muscles that will push you away from the table.
How much weight did you say he's down now?
Man, I haven't talked to many people about this, and that's why. But food, man. Like, if you're really battling obesity, it starts at the dinner table, man. The walking's great, all the other stuff's great, but you got to fight that addiction at the dinner table.
That's right. Well,
yes,
to answer your question, he was at 560, and he's now at 276.
Wow.
Well, hey, you know what? He's on a roll.
Yeah, a Jelly Roll.
Yes, sir.
I see what you did there. I think I see what you did. Listen, I lost a bunch of weight. And I used, I did the Ozempic or something like that. I took the shots, and I went from 325, and I look around and say, why didn't you folks tell me what I look like? Oh my goodness! And I'm now down to about 245, 250, right in there.
Looking mighty fine there, Brother
Brian.
Well,
for somebody my height, that's not a bad weight.
Not bad at all.
I tell you what, it's amazing. So, keep at it, Jelly Roll, buddy. I want you to, I'd love to see you run that marathon.
Yes, sir.
And you know what? You'll have a longer life, that's for sure. He wants to be on a magazine without his shirt on at some point. I think they have I think it might have to be a little Jelly Roll surgery to get rid of some of them Jelly Rolls. But one way or the other, good luck. I completely support what you're doing. It is time for the news at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Six o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. At least 10 people were shot today in a Baton Rouge, Louisiana mall. Happened there at the Mall of Louisiana. Chief T.J. Morse says police believe this was an incident involving two groups of people in the food court.
Unfortunately, there were some innocent people that were in the area that might have also caused some rounds. Right now, we have 10 victims at local area hospitals, some transported by EMS and some arriving by private vehicle.
Well, at least one of those victims died, and police are making arrests. Wildfires have destroyed more homes in southern Georgia, at least 87 in Brantley County alone, where County Manager Joey Kaysen says.
We have folks that have been told to evacuate in the last 10 minutes. We need folks to understand they need to be prepared to evacuate. This is a dynamic fire that's changing.
Operation Epic Fury. Don't trust me, or rather rush me, that is. That's what President Trump's repeated reaction at the White House when asked by reporters about when the war in Iran might wind down or when ships might once again move freely through the Strait of Hormuz.
I don't want to rush it. I want to take my time. We have plenty of time. And I want to get a great deal. I want to get a deal where our nation and the world is safe from lunatics with nuclear weapons.
Now, the president says the strait will reopen when he says so. He also announced today a partnership with drug company Regeneron. He says will make certain prescription drugs cheaper.
One of the most respected pharmaceutical companies anywhere in the world, frankly, I know it very well, is Regeneron. And it's agreed to offer their prescription medications at heavily discounted, most favored nation prices. In other words, they're the numbers will come down at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
Regeneron makes medicines, mainly injectables, to treat eye disease, allergies, cancer, heart disease, rare genetic disorders, and more. And in a historic policy change, the Justice Department's rescheduling some marijuana products. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced medical marijuana regulated by states will no longer be treated like heroin or LSD under federal law. Instead, it moves to Schedule 3 alongside drugs with recognized medical uses like Tylenol with codeine. Officials say the change improves research access but stops short of legalization, at least on the federal level. And here in Tennessee, new state legislation stops agencies from easing marijuana laws based on federal changes. Any reform would require approval by the state legislature first. Legal hemp-derived THC products are not impacted by this federal policy. The Justice Department's order applies only to marijuana, not hemp defined under federal law. That means products like hemp-based THC gummies and drinks remain legal if they meet THC limits. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Brentwood got a crash on the left shoulder, 65 northbound, approaching Old Hickory Boulevard. It is brake, tapping, stop and go. Both directions 40 between downtown and the eastern split. North and southbound 65 between 440 and the south loop downtown. And at times it has been complete stop and go, 65 northbound, trying to get through the construction there from Goodlettsville up to Millersville. I'm Ken Weaver.
It is 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. I am Brian Wilson. I am not Matt Murphy, but Matt Murphy is a little off today, of not feeling too well, so I am stepping up to fill in for him today. Don't know what the plan is for tomorrow, but hopefully he'll be back. Said he just felt a little under the weather, running a little fever, so he's over to see the doc. Again, everything is good. Let's talk about this story, which just I mean, it sends off all kinds of alarm bells. And it's one of the weirdest stories that I think I've ever covered. Now, we got a lot going on out there. If you've been paying attention to what has been said of late, the president has said, in fact, he said it just the other day, that he has some big announcements to make with regard to the UAP, UFO thing. That Congress has been asking for documents, and the president has said they're going to release a bunch of documents, and we're going to learn more about what that thing is all about. But admit that against that backdrop, whatever that turns out to be, there's this other sort of parallel story which is catching everybody's attention, that many U.S. scientists, including some who may have been working on the United States attempts to reverse engineer alien technology. It seems hard to say that, but I mean, that really was going on, apparently, what we're going to find out. And 11 of these scientists who've been connected to that and other things have just vanished. These are rocket scientists. These are physicists. These are people who worked in the highest levels of government with the highest security clearances. And one by one, they've just sort of vanished, died, disappeared. We got a retired general, who was very active in a lot of things that are going to be big stories in the days ahead. This General McCaslin out of New Mexico just vanished. Just up and disappeared one day. Nobody knows where he is. This is becoming, what you have in government, though, many times, is you have all of these different agencies, all these alphabet agencies that are there, right? And you know what? They don't talk to each other. They talk among themselves, but they don't share information. And so some of these people work for the Department of Energy. Some of these people work for Los Alamos. Some people worked in other programs within the government or had government, related contracts. And we're talking top of the line people. And they have just all vanished or died under very mysterious circumstances of late. James Clymer is the Republican congressman from Comer. James Comer is the Republican congressman from Kentucky who is the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. And he was on the radio, one of these talk shows, talking about how they are going to investigate this and get to the bottom of it. And I think it's pretty interesting, talking to Maria Bartiromo about all of this.
I mean, I don't think anyone who's keeping up with this story would think the odds were very good that this is all a coincidence. There could be a lot of reasons behind what's happening. Of course, it could be a coincidence, but what I've learned is in 3 years as chairman of the House Oversight Committee is a lot of these agencies never share information. And you heard Kash Patel say they're just now starting an investigation because it's just now popping up on the radar screen of the average American. But this has been happening for 3 years. And the longer you have to go back to do an investigation, the harder it is to get information. So we're working as a committee. We want to see everything that NASA has, everything the Department of Energy has, everything the Department of War has, and we want to compare notes to see if there's some type of link, if there is something that would suggest that these are consistent with some type of country or some individual or some company that may be trying to do something to disrupt America or to steal our intellectual property with respect to our nuclear program.
Yeah, I mean, look, the president the other day made a comment about this, saying that these were all very important top people. What kind of access did they have?
They all had different types of access. One was just an administrative assistant. Some were the scientists at the top level, and everything in between. Some worked for NASA, some worked for the Department of Energy. So there's a wide range of occupations within the nuclear and space program. There's a wide range of responsibilities and internal knowledge. But at the end of the day, to have that many, 11, that have either died or are missing, it's something that needs to be investigated, and we're taking it very seriously. And I can tell you, from talking to my colleagues in Congress, Democrat and Republican, every member of Congress is getting a lot of calls from their constituents asking about this.
Yeah. And not only that, but, you know, when you consider the fact that we're so competitive on so many levels with China, like, you know, Jared Isaacman, the head of NASA, was with us a couple of weeks ago, and he said that we're talking about months, you know, in terms of when we're going to get back to the moon and when China is going to get back to the moon. It's not years. It's that competitive. And, of course, that's one of the areas that some of those scientists were working.
It is, and you always have to watch China. We have the usual suspects anytime something like this happens. Obviously, China's at the top of the list, and you have Russia, Iran, North Korea. But there are a lot of other countries. Anytime there's a major cyber attack, oftentimes it happens in a country that most Americans would have a difficult time finding on the map. So there are a lot of potential countries that could be involved in this, or again, as I said earlier, it could be a coincidence, but I don't think anyone thinks that it's a coincidence. But at the end of the day, we need to have a serious congressional investigation on this. That's what we're doing. We're trying to get all the information together. And again, I'm confident, Maria, that none of these agencies, up until perhaps in the last week, have ever shared information on their employees that have either died or were missing. I doubt they even knew there was a link. So we're going to try to do our part to get answers for the American people and to try to protect the employees and to protect our nuclear and space intellectual property.
Well, you know, it sounds like he's got, you know, get everybody in one room. Everybody bring your files. We'll sit you down in one room and we're going to get some answers. I have a feeling there's more to this story than we've been let on, that we've been told about. And it's bizarre. All right, so where are these people and what happened to them? Listen to this. Sort of makes sense. Don't know if this is right, but it is certainly some of the things that are being said in Washington. American adversaries may be involved in the cases of more than 10 U.S. scientists reported missing or dead, a lawmaker told News Nation. As the House Oversight Committee launches an investigation into the researcher disappearance and deaths, Representative Eric Burleson, Republican of Missouri, thinks adversaries such as China, Russia, or Iran could be connected to all this. I would not be surprised if they weren't. Burleson said he's worried for the rest of the nation's scientists as the disappearances and death receive renewed attention. These scientists are not hardened. They don't have a security detail. They would be a very easy target, Burleson said, of missing and deceased researchers. The FBI is spearheading the effort to look for connections into the missing and deceased scientists, working with the Department of Energy, the Department of War, with the Department of State, local law enforcement, and Department of, let's see, what else? More, State. Oh, yeah, NASA. So there you go. There is, I mean, it's really, could this be that during the Biden years, while the back door to our country was wide open, I mean, how many times did you hear me say back then, you know what? The back door to our country is open. Our border is wide open. People are coming into this country. And if I were an adversary of the United States, you know what I would do? I'd be sending my people in there to get buried into a country, to disappear into the fabric of the nation, and to wait for my assignment. Could it be that China or Russia or Iran or North Korea sent people over here while our back door was wide open to infiltrate into our country, and they've been picking these people off, smuggling them out of the country, killing them to hurt our programs and take our top smart people out of the mix? How much of this has anything to do with the soon-to-be-made revelations with regarding UAPs and UFOs? I don't know. But it seems entirely possible that there's some really bad stuff going on here. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's just a wild coincidence that some of these top scientists and experts have all gone, met some kind of weird fate or have disappeared. Nobody seems to. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Doesn't feel like that. So I don't know what the ultimate answer is. But getting everybody into the room and having a conversation with the people from the Energy Department, NASA, and the Department, this, that, and the other. Get everybody to tell us what you know, FBI. Tell us what you know, Department of State. Tell us what you know about these people. Compare notes. Are there others? I mean, it's just a weird story. And at the end of the day, my suspicion is that our adversaries on the world stage are probably behind this, and they were able to carry this out because the Biden administration would let anybody waltz into this country with no background check, and it was very easy to get into this country and never come in contact with law enforcement. The so-called known gotaways. We knew they got into the country, but we didn't ever have a chance to intercept them. There were at least a million people who came into this country that way. If I'm an adversary of the United States and I'm looking around and I say, how can I hurt my adversary of the United States? How can I harm them? I would say, oh, by the way, they're going through that whole, border crisis right now, and it's easy to get into the country. I think we'll have some people get into the country and lay low for a while. The timing is right. This all started in 2022. And by the way, if you're one who thinks this is more about the UAPs, the big development in that story happened in 2017 with the New York Times article and then the release of these videos. So that fits as well. One way or the other, something is going on that doesn't make a lot of sense. And people are vanishing, and it hurts our ability to develop the technology that we need to be competitive on the world stage. You take away our top scientists, our real experts, and the president has said these were top people, then you hurt our ability to be on the cutting edge of new technology and be on the cutting edge of staying ahead of our adversaries on the world stage when it comes to weaponry and whatever else that they may be doing. Our space race. We need to get to the moon before the Chinese do. We really do. Is this an attempt by the Chinese to slow down our ability to make that trip? Who knows? But one way or the other, there are many, many, many questions, and the truth is not obvious. Maybe we'll get some answers in the next few days as Congress starts to hold hearings and gets people into a room to find out what it is they all know, and we begin this process of sharing information that should have been shared all along. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy. Let's talk about your personal safety for a moment. Brink Fiddler comes on from time to time. We talk about the safety in America of the general population and what to do to make sure that you understand what to do in the case of a negative situation coming your way. Brink's never here to scare you. And when you go through the process with Defense Systems, and I've been through his program on several different occasions. I've done the TECC course, and I've also done his standard course that he delivers for churches and schools and, various business locations. Defense Systems is not here to frighten you, and they're not going to frighten your staff, but they are here to make you aware that we live in a dangerous world, and workplace violence situations happen. Active shooter situations happen. Emergency plans need to be in place. Intruder plans need to be in place at your place of business. What do you do in the event that something like this happens to you? Now, the possibility is very, very low, but it's not zero. That's why hope is never a plan. It is time to get trained, friends, with Defense Systems. If you're a decision maker at a school, at a church, at a place of business, you owe it to yourself and your staff to contact Brink Fiddler and Defense Systems. Call them at 615-236-6484, 236-6484, or online at defensesystems.com, defensesystems.com. This is customized to your facility, and it can be a lifesaver. It's certainly a game changer. Defense Systems. Hey, friends, Matt Murphy for Genesis Diamonds. The word that comes to mind when I think of Genesis Diamonds is integrity. This is a company built on a solid foundation with incredible transparency and honesty. This is why they don't have commissioned salespeople at Genesis Diamond. Think about that for a minute. When you walk in and someone's incentivized to sell you more, to upsell you, they're going to be pressuring you to buy that thing that perhaps you can't afford. At Genesis, they want to be family. They don't want to pressure you. So you're never pressured to buy. You're never pressured to do anything that you don't want to do. They just are there for a relational experience. They're going to walk you through the process, explain it to you, educate you, and then you get to select the diamond that's right for you and your family for whatever the occasion might be. Don't forget, only Genesis has the top bridal designer brands that everyone wants. Don't forget, they are your luxury pre-owned Rolex superstore at Genesis Diamonds, both locations, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the true diamond leader in this community, Genesis Diamonds.
Five minutes past the hour, 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Ken Weaver in the newsroom. RJ pushing the blinky buttons. It's a good day, beautiful day. It really was a beautiful day. Went out this morning, had coffee, had the Bulldogs, hanging around the pool. It was just great. It was fantastic. I didn't want to come in. It was just perfect. Hope you're having a good day. Hope everything's going well for you. Want to talk about Iran, if I could. The president of the United States today was questioned, well, how long is this going to take? And reporters were in the Oval, and they were peppering him with questions, and he was having none of it. Don't bug me about a timeline, he said. Here is the President of the United States from earlier today. And boom.
So we were in Vietnam for 18 years. We were in Iraq for many, many years. We were in for I don't like to say World War II because that was a biggie, but we were 4.5, almost 5 years in World War II. We were in the Korean War for 7 years. I've been doing this for 6 weeks. And their military is totally defeated. They're outside of the little wise guy ships. I call them the wise guy ships, the little boats that they have running around with guns in them. We'll take them out too when we see them. But their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft is gone, all of their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Maybe they loaded up a little bit during the 2-week hiatus, but we'll knock that out in about 1 day if they did. We've done an amazing job. Their leaders are gone. The leaders are all gone. Part of the problem is that, that's why I can't really answer your question. They have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control. And because we've created a real mess for them, but they've created a mess for the world over the last 47 years. They've killed a lot of our people.
Well, I think he makes a very good point here. Can you imagine what it must be like to be in Iran right now? If you're part of the structure of the government, the clerics, whatever it is, it's got to be utter chaos. I mean, the country is somewhat in shambles after being bombed and hit, and the military has been dismantled, and leadership has been reduced at several different levels. We're not even sure who's in charge of the country. So as you're out there trying to have negotiations to bring this thing to an end, you're negotiating in good faith with one party that you think is the party that can get it across the goal line. And then, when details come out about the deal that's in the works, Somebody else who's not involved in that at all says, oh, no, it's not going to happen. And, you got a lot of people vying for power within Iran right now because so many different levels of leadership are gone. They say, hey, here's my chance. I'm going to try to climb the ladder here. And they're all vying to be in control and to be in charge. And it's got to be a little difficult to figure out if you're talking to the right person or not. That's a complication that comes in the fog of war. And, I don't think it's a long-running problem. I think we can get this resolved. Here's what I predict will happen. Mark my word, in a couple of weeks, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I think I'm right about this. I think they're going to try to get to some kind of negotiations by this weekend. And if they get the right people and it looks like this thing can be put to bed and there can be some kind of a deal that prevents any more warfare and shuts down their attacks against the region and their attacks against everybody and moves them toward being a part of the world of nations, then I think that's a great outcome. However, if at the end of the day we go through another one of these things where we're negotiating and then all of a sudden they go back on the deal or somebody else steps up and said, oh, no, you won't, and I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen, or I'm going to do what I can to make sure that these negotiations are not successful because I don't agree with them, and that could be going on within Iran right now, then I think what Trump does, he's been putting a lot of equipment and manpower and weaponry in that region during this break. I think he goes in and he pounds him one more time and he just pulls out. That's it. We're done. We tried. You're on your own now. We wanted to cut a deal with you. We wanted to work with you. We wanted to bring you into, favored nation status. We wanted to change the direction and maybe change the leadership of what's going on in this war-torn country. But if you can't, then okay, we're going to beat the crap out of you and then we're getting out of here. Why would that work? Because it's in their best interest to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Now, we might have to go back in. The Israelis may have to go back in and do some cleanup action. But I have a feeling that if they can't get to a deal by this weekend and everybody's on the same page and this thing moves forward, he's got the machinery and the manpower and everything that he needs in the way of weaponry and technology to hit them hard one last time and be done. And then just move on. We tried. We have stopped you. The number one thing that we wanted to do was stop you from building a nuclear weapon. We've done that. It's in their interest to open up the Strait of Hormuz, and the only reason they're not is because we're there. So if we get out of the way, maybe they'll open up the Strait of Hormuz and things will move back on. But one way or the other, it's got to happen pretty quick. So we'll be watching to see exactly what happens there in the meantime. But I have a feeling this thing will not be going on all that much longer. And for those who are worried about it in the midterm elections, take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. 31 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Time for the news.
Southwest 507, maintain.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for U.S. Pest. Folks, when you travel through the city, sometimes you'll see these big billboards. They say U.S. Pest on them. Those are J.K. and Erica's billboards. You notice that you'll always see an American flag flying on one of those billboards. And we always mention how much they love these United States of America because America helped J.K. and Erica build U.S. Pest from what it was over the years to what it is now. It is the finest pest control company in Middle Tennessee, bar none. They're going to handle the issues that you have in your home, whether they're termites or just general bugs. Maybe you got roaches. Maybe you got spiders. Maybe you need crawl space relief. All of this is with a 100% money-back guarantee. But when you see those American flags flying or you hear me mention their love of this to the United States, know this. One thing you need to know about them, they love the United States of America. And the second thing you need to know about them is they hate bugs, and they will destroy them and where they live and where they breed and where they breathe in and around your property. All you got to do is call them. USPest.com. That's USPest.com or 590-1260. 590-1260. Give them a call and tell them that I sent you to the one and only U.S. Pest.
It is 38 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. It's Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy on the Matt Murphy Show. Thank you for being with us here. We really do appreciate your time. And thank you for the very kind words. Getting a lot of nice notes. People saying it's good to hear my voice. It's good to be on the radio. Because I don't get to be on the radio that much anymore. I'm concerned about a couple of things. I'm concerned about this thing that happened out at BNA, I think it was last weekend. 2 Southwest Airline aircraft came within 500 feet of colliding with each other. I think Channel 5 it was, I think, broke the story. Others have done a lot of reporting on it. I think it's a pretty scary story, quite frankly. It really is very scary. And I would, what scares me about this is it seems like we're seeing sort of every day a story about a runway incursion, a near miss here, a near miss there. We came within 500 feet of having a disaster of epic proportions, 2 aircraft colliding with each other over the city of Nashville. That's what nearly happened. And we came unbelievably close. Channel 4 has done some reporting on it, and in this story, it runs about 2 minutes, and I think it's worth the time. Listen very carefully, because you're going to hear from a guy who knows about air traffic control. He's an expert that they've tapped into. This is reporter Steve Mailing talking about what we're learning about the near collision at BNA.
Southwest 507, maintain 2000.
Saturday afternoon was lined up to be a routine landing for Southwest Flight 507, but as it made its way to land, pilots decided the winds were too strong and started to circle the airport to try again.
2000, Southwest 507.
It was routine until it wasn't.
507, turn right heading 110.
It was in this moment that the air traffic controller put one Southwest flight on a collision course with another.
Started out great, and then for whatever reason, he decided to vector him to the east. He completely forgot about the other Southwest and did not realize it until it was too late.
At the same time, Southwest Flight 1152 was taking off. Shown in the playback of Saturday's flight traffic, the two were virtually on top of each other.
I wish I could show you this on television, but I mean, it really, honestly, their paths crossed. And one flew over the other, and there was only 500 feet separating them. If they'd have been on the same plane, at the same altitude, they would have hit. I mean, that is way, way too close. There's a system on aircraft like this called TCAS. You'll hear him talk about that. The TCAS system, when they sense that there's a collision about to happen, it will tell one to go up and one to go down, and you just reflexively do what it tells you to do, and it helps you avoid the accident. Had it not been for the TCAS system, this would have been a real mess.
The FAA said only 500 feet separated both planes.
You have to be 100% perfect 100% of the time. We're going to make mistakes. It's not a matter of if, it's when.
In this instance, the pilots were able to see they were too close for comfort on their traffic collision avoidance system, or TCAS.
2000, we're already past.
We wanted to know how often something like this happens at BNA. And in an upgraded points article, it showed that between 2021 and 2024, BNA has had 25 low-risk near-miss incidents. And David Riley, who has over 20 years of experience as a controller, says it all comes back to the amount of people in the tower.
BNA is one of the top 30 busiest airports in the country, and it's the least staffed airport of those 30.
That is very interesting. We don't have enough people in the tower.
They have 28 controllers of the 52 that they're allotted. The situation at BNA needs to be addressed.
In this instance, you can hear the same controller approving both departures and landings, which likely means they faced some sort of shortage Saturday night. For WSMB4, I'm Steve Mailing.
Wow. So we are allocated to have 52 air traffic controllers at BNA in that system at BNA. And we have, 28, something like that? So we don't have near enough people to get the job done. And so what does that mean? You're driving the people hard. They got too much workload. And as the man said, you got to be right every single day. You cannot make an error. You have to be focused. You got to get it right every day, all the time. And we came, scary close to a bad crash. Okay? If that were in isolation, I would say, okay, let's move on. Maybe it's not as bad a deal as I think it is. There was a runway incident at BNA not long ago. I can't find the story, but I distinctly remember Southwest Airlines had to shut it down, I think it was, and avoid an incursion on the runway. And if they had not gotten it shut down, that could have been a disaster. Now this. FAA probes JFK near miss after another recent close call fuels scrutiny of air traffic safety. From Fox News. Fox News covers a devastating runway collision at LaGuardia Airport where an Air Canada Express jet landed on runway 4 and collided with a Port Authority fire truck just before midnight. The accident killed 2 pilots and injured dozens of passengers. What about this? An American Airlines regional jet flew close to an Air Canada regional jet after aborting its landing. It was the second such incident in recent days at a major U.S. airport. The Federal Aviation Administration said Wednesday that it was investigating a near miss between 2 passenger jets at Kennedy International Airport. The close call happened Monday afternoon when an American Airlines regional jet missed its intended approach path and aborted its landing. That sent it dangerously close to an Air Canada regional jet that had been cleared to land on a parallel runway. Both aircraft responded to onboard collision warnings, the TCAS system again, and averted each other. The safety then safely repeated their landing attempts a short time later. What's going on? Well, it sounds like, and I don't think this is a Trump administration problem. I think we've got a very, very good Secretary of Transportation in Sean Duffy. I think he's doing a good job. But I think that systems really got degraded during the Biden years, and we didn't do enough to make sure that we were keeping our towers fully staffed. It is a high turnover job because of the stress that's involved in that job. Can you imagine being there and trying to keep up with all those little dots on the screen? And all of those little planes that are out there on the runways to make sure they don't bounce into each other, while they're taxiing around or they're landing or taking off, and that you got enough separation. It has got to be one of the toughest jobs in America. And I think there's a high burnout rate here. Listen to this. I just leave you with this thought on this particular story. This is from the Wall Street Journal. I think it's today. Yes, today. I can't talk to anybody. One air traffic controller's mental health struggle. Talked about a guy named Josh who worked as an air traffic controller for the Federal Administration for more than a decade. He struggled with symptoms of depression, but he concealed his condition out of fear that it would disqualify him from directing traffic and he would lose his job. His initial love for work gave way to chronic stress and exhaustion. "Babe, I can't talk to anybody," Joshua told her. "Please don't talk to anybody about how I'm feeling. I don't want to lose my job." Each day, thousands of controllers monitor flight paths and direct pilots in the high-stress work of keeping U.S. skies safe. But behind the crackle of commands issued from towers and facilities, many controllers are silently struggling. According to interviews with more than 24 current and former controllers, medical experts, industry officials, and lawmakers, they said they hide their mental health issues because they worry that reporting a diagnosis or receiving treatment could cost them their livelihoods. And this is another sign of the stress that they're under. An estimated 12 controllers died by suicide in 2024. You say, oh, how many is that bad? Well, that's out of 10,700 fully trained controllers. The suicide rate as a nation is 13.7 per 100,000. So, yeah, that's a very high suicide rate for that particular industry. In the 2 years prior, an estimated total of 12 controllers died by suicide. Those estimates exclude trainees and retired controllers. So, yeah, it's a tough job, and it would help a lot if we had our control towers fully staffed with people to make sure they're not overworked and overloaded. I mean, I can't imagine the pressure of going in each day and realizing that you're going to have to do the work of 2 people in that environment. Come on. So here's what I would say. The system seems to me is blinking yellow, maybe a little red. This is a warning. When you have those near misses, when you have those runway incursions, when you have things like this happening, when you see these stories and you see how understaffed some of these airports are, then you got to do something about it. Now, there are 2 options here. Number 1, get more traffic controllers. The problem with that is it takes a while to train them up. It takes a while to get them trained up and in the job, and there's a great turnover rate because it's a very stressful job, and a lot of people wash out after a while. So it's hard to do it that way. So if you can't, in the near term, get more people you can eventually, but in the short term, you're not going to be able to get that many people in the control room because it takes that much long for them to train up. So what's the other option? Reduce the number of flights. And I hate to see that. But it may be necessary that we have to reduce and put some restrictions on how many flights we have in America at this time until we can get this thing under control to reduce the workload somewhat that way. I don't like that idea, but I don't like air crashes even more. So, I guarantee you if there is another crash, God forbid, and I hope I'm wrong, I hope that never happens, but if there's another crash in the near term, it's going to happen anyway. So I don't think this is on the Trump administration. I think this is on the Biden administration, but one way or the other, if you don't see these signs and realize that the system is sending you a message, then you're not paying attention. 51 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
For many of you, and I know because I talk to you, and I'm one of you, you do everything right. You feel like you're exercising enough. You feel like you're eating right, but you get to a certain age where you just can't get it off in certain areas. You just can't get it done. Allow the modern technology, the red light therapy that is Contours, to give you that boost, that assist. You do those things that you're doing in your daily life. Let Contours do their thing with their ultra slim body contouring, and together you're going to achieve that level of happiness, and that happiness, it cannot be replicated. Once you get to that body, that look that you're looking for, once you lose those inches that you wanted to lose in your love handles, in your chest area, wherever it might be, I'm telling you, folks, look in the mirror and you'll love what you see when you get to Contours LLC. They also do facials that are revitalizing. The red light therapy will tighten your skin and restore your natural glow for both men and women. Red light therapy works, and I'm a testimony to it because I'm going through a session right now, just left earlier today, as a matter of fact. So for $99, you can get that Belly Buster special. Call today at Contours LLC, 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960, ContoursLLC.com. What do you have to lose but inches?
It's 56 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7, winding things up for the 7 o'clock hour. And you know, the things that follow. Mark Levin, the great one, will be along here in just a little bit. Brian Wilson in for Matt Murphy. I think Matt may be back tomorrow. We're just not sure. But one way or the other, there will be a body in here with a microphone in front of it. So there you go. A little bit of, call this parenting news. I've been holding on to this story for a while. I love this story. From the Tennessean a few days back, some parents are using a new tactic to quell their child's tantrums. And her name is Jessica. A new trend of parents calling out the name Jessica while their child is having an outburst has gained popularity on TikTok for its apparent effectiveness. I mean, this is the way the videos play out the same way. They show a crying toddler losing his or her mind, and then the mom or dad starts calling for Jessica, sometimes even pretending to search for this imaginary Jessica. Where Jessica? Where are you, Jessica? You know what happens? The response is almost instant. The child immediately stops crying, and in some cases starts to look for Jessica as well. While the origins of the trend are unclear, videos of the parents using the so-called Jessica trick have flooded social media in recent days, with many noting how successful it is. But why, and could it be harmful? They go in to find out. It's aimed at calming kids down during a tantrum by randomly saying the name of an imaginary person. While several names have been used for the trend, most videos use the name Jessica. And it works. How does it work? Redirection. You are redirecting the child into something else and breaking them out of that moment that they're in. So next time you got a screaming toddler, just start shouting, "Where's Jessica?" I wonder if it works on French bulldogs. I don't know. We'll have to find out. Then there's this. A group of 20 to 30-something-year-olds in the U.S. Capitol swapped their smartphones for basic flip phones to see if they could go without social media for a full month. It about drove them crazy. But what they found is that they returned to things like CDs, listening to music on CDs, and not using social media as much. And, of course, not having all of the things that come with a smartphone. You basically just had a dumb phone. But that's okay. It worked out for them. Anyway, they believe this may be a trend among young people who are ready to move to something else. That's it for me. I got to go. Thank you so much. It is now time for the news on Super Talk 99.7.